13th, 2017 of the Lathrop Manteca Fire Protection District. Go ahead and do roll call.
Director Gish,
Present.
Director Gleason,
Present.
Director Payton,
Here.
Vice Chairman Jeremy Coe,
Present.
and Chairman Gloriana Rhodes.
Here. Let's go ahead and do the pledge. Please join me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now we still gotta wait for him. Might as well go ahead and start reading the, if the board wants to read the mission, the vision, and review it. Well, I figured that at this point, number 4, strategic operational objective planning session, but it's got the mission, the vision, and review of stakeholders, and I think that we can start looking at that without starting the discussion at this point.
Sorry, I thought we were waiting for Jeremy. Yeah. I was looking at it.
No, your phone was here. They were calling you and your phone was here. We just figured we'd get the beginning out of the way. So we're in number 4. They're just reviewing the mission. Give you time to. Okay, Chief?
All right. So establishment of the vision statement. This is what the board had chose to establish. So as much as the mission statement is it's not set in stone, but it's been with our organization for several years. The vision statement can be changed, and if the board chooses to, annually, when we do the strategic operational plan. And so the vision of the Lathrop Manteca Fire District is to establish infrastructure and retention of employees through planned succession of skilled, efficient workforce, to implement new technology while maintaining tradition by seeking out professional and innovative training and providing professional outreach to our community. One of the things I think we really need to strive on this year is that succession plan. We need to make sure that we have everything in place for whatever may happen. If there was an exit plan for myself, we need to make sure that there is people in place that are going to be able to maintain the district. For several years, I've been the only body that has overseen and had the overreaching capability of maintaining the whole district as a whole. And what I mean by that is there's been questions brought up in recent past of things as fire prevention. The fire chief normally is the fire marshal. We do have a deputy fire marshal. One of the things that I'd like to make in play, be able to put in place before my exit of this organization would be to make that that deputy fire marshal a fire marshal, so that you have that separate body that would be able to establish and maintain the fire code outside of the fire chief's realm, and he would be able to still work on the operation of the organization. Another opportunity I think that is out there for us when we look at this succession planning is the board's secretary. So the board secretary, the fire chief, I took that over when Angela left because it was confusing and somewhat overlapping, but there is, and there has been questions of how does the board get contacted, or how does the board contact an individual to get certain things. Not necessarily do you need to contact the fire chief to get a copy of the rules and regulations, or to get a copy of this or a copy of that. The executive secretary would probably be most efficient and be able to provide that means of workforce for you. So I think that that's something we need to look at in the future as we move forward.
Let me ask a question, because, I mean, in the real world, when you have a top administrator, which is your position, you also have human resources director, finance director, communications people. I mean, you have all of these stuff. So my question is, when we look at succession planning, do we look at a complete overall? So in other words, not only the fire chief, but the assistant, if there is one. In other words, the whole line, but also trying to give some of the other top administrators some more of training in human resources. This district is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. For one person to be all of those things is already quite overwhelming. As we continue to grow, it gets even more overwhelming. So also identifying, I guess that's the word I was trying to find out. Also identifying, as we grow, as succession plannings are built, other folks that can start picking up pieces, like we did when we talked about the fire marshal a few years back. In other words, because if not, that job, which is already overwhelming, is going to continue to get more and more overwhelming.
And I think you're absolutely right. And so some of that has been delegated out. The Becky Ariola, the executive secretary, does the human resources piece, and she does a lot of that already. It's already broken out. We've had some disciplinary issues come up where we've had to divide that up and separate it, but all that comes at a cost. So how many fingers do you have on your hand? It comes at a cost, and that's just an analogy of outreach. So if we put in, a human resources and then separate somebody else to do finance and so forth, and so all that comes at a cost. It's there, it's feasible, and you're absolutely right. When we start growing, we need to expand in all aspects of that. Traditionally, we've been a small district, and the fire chief has taken on such a huge role, and there's so much to do. I used to do the IT. There's no way I could even comprehend that at today's level of technology that we're in. And so we've gotten that, and we've worked an agreement out with the city in order for Tony to do that. And so we sub that out, and we pay a little bit for that, and we've traded some services for it with some lease space on our tower. But that's just one aspect that we need to think about. And I think that needs to be in our goals as we go through this. When we talk about succession of skilled, efficient workforce, we need to talk about all of it, just as you said, an oversight of it all, and not just the firefighters. And I think that's what we were, when we initially did this, we want to make sure we have a succession for the firefighters, the battalion chiefs, the captains, and that is true. And we need to do that. We need to maintain that. And we've been working really hard with that succession planning by working on things as task books and getting people trained and working on state fire marshal certifications. We've been doing all that at that level. As we move forward, and I'm not getting any younger, so I want the board to realize that, I will be exiting. And so at some point when I leave this organization, I don't want to leave it how I received it. And that was a book thrown in my lap with no instructions in it and a deficit of $350,000. So we've done a good job as a board and as the fire chief to make sure that we have a reserve in place, that we're funded. We're stable and soluble, but what we haven't done is prepare for my exit. And so I think that as we move forward in the next years or months, whatever it is, we need to prepare for something else to happen in this organization, a new era. And so with that, I think that we need to make sure that each discipline and each level of what we do, and it moves towards where you're going, is branched off so that there's another level of oversight or supervision. And what I mean by that is, with Becky being potentially moved up, we could offer it out to the open for a board secretary, but it's only a couple hours out of the day versus, what she would do. For instance, that she could then expand with somebody else into human resources and overseeing what she has over there already at the workforce with Debbie and Sue. With the fire marshal, we have an inspector that we have put on, and so I see that as we go forward, that we're going to need additional inspectors. That part-time inspector may move into a full-time position as we grow, because currently Steve, the deputy fire marshal, is just overwhelmed. He has more plans coming in than he can keep up with, which is, I guess, a good problem to have, but we still have to maintain the service capabilities and the efficiencies that we can. So I think as we move through this plan today, I think that we need to put things in place to make sure that we've covered all those bases.
Well, and we still have where if, let's say that Becky wins the lottery, and she decides, Chief, I love you dearly, but I'm out of here. I'm going to be in Europe for the next year and a half. Whether they're already trained to pick everything up, because what I see, where I'm going to is, it still is happening, and it probably will for a long, long time until we get there, but that's what today is about, is planning for the future, is that the chief still has to pick up all of the slack when something happens. And that's why I'm saying, having a succession plan for the top, person is an absolute, but I've seen it also where just other administration and everything fell apart, because then your top administrator has to take over all of that, or staff are trying to, so having something in place where you can always move the next person up if they want it, and then bring a new person in that can be trained for all of the little, so that the opening position is always that first training opportunity versus,
And you're absolutely right, Madam Chair. And we have started to work on that. Sue does work on some of the ED stuff, the EDD stuff, and the healthcare, so benefits. So working in the human resources role a little bit, and learning how to do payroll. And she's working on that kind of stuff. And Debbie's been working on some extra stuff. So we are filtering that down and spreading that knowledge and that base to be able to do those tasks when something happens, or if, Becky needs some time off or whatever the case may be. So that has already been accomplished. I just think we need to make that more, we just need to solidify that more with actual task roles and responsibilities. And so that needs to be in place. And then we just need to move forward with, what the board wants to do too in the future. So I think you're absolutely right. You nailed it on the head. And that's what I'm trying to say at the same time. I think we're talking the same stuff. We just need to maybe put that into the plan, and more explicit by saying from the top down type stuff.
very good.
Any questions on the vision statement, or would you like me to change any of it? Would you like me to succession plan of skilled, efficient workforce from the top down to implement new technology? Would you like me to add some of that? So I'm going to take notes on here, just so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to tell you how we were going to run this. That's my fault. I was in another room. So we're just going to review everything. I'm going to take notes. Then we're going to put it back together. And then at the next meeting in June 1st, we're going to review everything that we've discussed. So I'm going to ask questions if you want things changed, how you want to work things, if you want to add things, so on and so forth. Okay?
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I was looking at the vision statement, and we already got in there, plan succession of skilled, efficient workforce. I think that covers it.
Okay.
It's just the focus is going to be more, it's going to encompass admin.
Okay.
But I don't think we need to change
The
any of
knowledge
the
of
wording.
that. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just, I've never been really sure about the word stabilize, because even when we did this originally, we were talking about the firefighters. And I never felt that it was, I mean, stabilized to me is that there's an issue and you just want to keep it, afloat versus sinking, and it's never been that way. But I don't know, I haven't been able to come up with a different word that would fit in there either. I mean, we're not stabilizing, we are enhancing, I don't know.
I don't know, if you look.
You're the English expert.
If you look at the total organization, the only portion of the organization that's always seems to be in flux, and I don't know if there is a cure for it, is the reserves, the volunteers. They come and go. I don't know how you can stabilize with a core group. Used to be the core group, had no aspirations really to go on. They just wanted to serve their community, and we've kind of losing that stability.
Yeah, but I mean, the one thing about, I mean, I love reserves. I think that, but we're not talking about a volunteer firefighter where the people that want to do it are actually so committed to the community that they just want to do this job, but never be a part of it. Just in seeing the reserves that we have put into place, they're looking for a job. I mean, and with a small district, we're never going to be able to employ them all. So I don't see that we're ever going to have reserves that want to stick around. And I'll be really honest with you, when Lewis was the reserve here, my advice as a parent was, as soon as you get a job, you need to let it go. And I'll tell you why, because you sure as heck don't want to break your leg in the reserve job and not be able to go to your regular job.
Right, but the stabilization of the volunteer force is going nationwide, and there's been articles, a lot of articles in regards to how do you stabilize that core, because it is the tradition of the departments to have that core group that just, we have one who's been 38 years? Long time. We have one that's been here for 38 years.
Oh, Rick Phillips, yeah,
Yeah.
he's been here for longer than I've been here.
Yeah, so, and there used to be, Bruce Rennie, and there was a core that this was their Lions Club, their Rotary, this is what, what they did, and so we've lost, that's the stability. We have guys that come in, get trained, and they go on, which is great that they're going on. Some come with us and some with neighboring agencies, but that core. So I think stability needs to kind of stay.
Okay.
Because there needs, and I like the wording.
Okay.
And I agree with that. The problem is the culture of today's workforce with the millennials, they're just a different breed to bring in, and they have different outlooks on life and what they want to see and what they want to do, and so that's a moving target, and it'll probably change when something changes in the economy or something happens, and we'll have a different group coming in. But that's the talk at every conference we go to, that somebody talks about the culture of today's workforce, and that's one of the problems with what we see as reserves or volunteers. It's not out there as what it used to be. It's sad, and I hope that somehow we can get a change of the culture of what we are today in society, but we move forward, and we try to do the best we can.
Right,
So-
we're not unique.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else on the vision? And for the two new board members, this is kind of more, there's no formality here, it's just discussion, and you can brainstorm and,
Yeah.
we've changed this before.
Yeah.
2 or 3 times, I think.
We've kept the mission statement as a whole for the two new members. The vision statement has changed a little bit here and there, but as long as it fits, it fits. But we really, when we get down to the meat and potatoes, when we start looking at stakeholders, goals and objectives, some of the other stuff, you're going to base that on the mission statement and the vision statement. So does that goal meet what the vision statement is saying, right? So that everything kind of comes together. So just to keep that in mind. So when we look at the strengths, weakness, opportunities, it kind of comes back to well, for instance, a weakness is, the color of the station is the wrong color. Does that really fit into the, you know what I mean, the vision statement? And I'll give you another example. The station needs to have the ceiling torn out and it needs to be remodeled, Station 31. Will that meet and stabilize infrastructure? Yeah, it could. It could be a goal and objective that you guys want me to come back, or a goal that you want me to do, and so that would fit under the vision statement. So, as much as the vision statement is kind of overlooking over 50,000-foot view of what we want to do, it will fall back to that to make sure that all the goals and objectives meet what we wanted to see. I'm sorry if you could probably already knew that, but
I'm happy with the vision statement as it is today. I think it says what it needs to say.
Very good. It looks like we can move on.
thank you. Okay, so now the next one is stakeholders. We want to review the current, what we had listed as stakeholders. We can add, or we can take out, modify, whatever you want to do. So the current stakeholders were employees and their families, so slash families, residents, businesses, developers, and neighboring districts.
Ours are actually different.
Really?
The ones we have are different than the ones you have on the board.
Yeah.
The ones on the paper.
Oh, the governance, I see. Yep, you're absolutely right. So what we currently had in our form were employees and their families, residents, businesses, developers, City of Lathrop, San Joaquin County, and other government agencies.
Still the stakeholders.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because the last time we got into a big discussion about all kinds of different government, and we just said just government agencies.
But now we got a relationship with OES with an engineer and. So stakeholders is good?
Yep.
Yep.
On the strengths, look at that. We're going quick.
Okay, 1 second, I'm sorry.
Are we recording for the public?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Just want to catch up, so what I can change is what I can change here.
This keyboard is too little.
So, Chief, what is in your slideshow, is that something that was drafted for this year? And what we have in front of us was from last year?
This was supposed to be from what we had last year, so the slideshow it apparently is outreach, skilled workforce. Yeah, the slideshow was drafted for this year that we could look at changing. It was supposed to be mimicking this, so it didn't come out that way, but. So let's just go through it. Emergency, so the strengths were emergency response time standards, highly skilled staff, community involvement, outreach, and newly equipped workforce. And I'm going to
You
change.
know what, I think that the one on the screen might be the last year's.
This one? It might have been the changes we made. I know we made a
Yeah,
mid-change,
yeah.
and so that may be why.
Yeah, I'm going to focus more on this one, because I remember, I remember the skill training going up to the strength. We had originally had it, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Whatever we come up with is what counts.
We can go over both of them, we can change it however you want.
Yeah.
So, I can pull up what we currently are looking at, what we're all looking at, so we're all looking at the same thing. Why don't we do that and make it easier?
I actually like yours better still, the one on the board. No, really, I mean,
This one,
and there's another piece of it too. This one has Benny Gatto as chair and me as vice chair. I think this is the one from the year prior.
yeah. Oh, 2 years ago?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Because last year would
Yeah.
have been Chairman Rhodes.
okay,
yeah, let's look at yours.
okay. Sounds fair.
Because I don't think response time was,
Yeah, no, we upgraded, so that one was the upgraded one.
All right, so let's go back to strengths, and then we'll make it look. So let's just follow this.
Yeah. So I'll make notes here for me.
Of course, now I lost my,
Oh,
lost your link.
yeah, that's okay. Let me fix it real quick. Okay. Strengths, so the strengths were employees, diversity in experience, background, and community involvement, outreach, and skilled training.
yeah, that was what we came up with last year.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So how many employees do we have?
So we have 30 line personnel, fire suppression personnel. We have 2 or 1.5 prevention. And we have 3 administrative and 2 administrative/suppression chiefs. And then we have 25 reserves.
Just so we get an idea who our employees are.
Now, for the new folks too, if you feel at any point that any strength is a weakness, or any weakness has become a strength, or any new one, these can also be changed.
On diversity in experience and background, we still have incentive programs for background, for training. Like dive team, hazmat,
Yes, we still pay incentives for those.
and they're taking advantage of that?
We did have a little bit of complacency happen with some of the USAR personnel, and we addressed that. They reached a minimum criteria to be considered USAR, but there's 5 core classes that we want them to have, and so 3 was the minimum that they had to have in order to qualify for the team, but that was with the understanding they would receive the other 2. The department pays for that training, we just needed them to sign up for classes, and that's taking place as we speak.
Community involvement and outreach. In the past, we've had ROP, CERT, Explorers, taught CPR. Did I cover it all? What else we do?
15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes?
We're heavily involved in the BTEC program with the Manteca Unified School District, so we outreach there too.
So what are you doing at BTEC?
We go and we participate in, they come and do a lot of their time, because they have to have volunteer time, so they come to our station and volunteer their hours so they can achieve that goal. They also do training with them. We've had them participate in some of the county-wide drills, and we interact with them during their expos, is what they call it. And expo is, they get up and do a PowerPoint presentation of what they're doing in their life and how they, and so the first responder portion of that BTEC, we participate pretty heavily in that.
Are we keeping track of demographics? So who's participating? their age, their ethnicity, all of that kind of demographics, so we can kind of tie that into recruitment for down the road?
So that's a good question, and we would have to reach out to the Manteca Unified School District to get those demographics. I don't know if we're obtaining that information or gathering that data, but I believe they would have it at hand for us if we requested it.
Because gender is a big issue, not just here, but across the state. Bringing in females into a male-dominated career, workforce,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Is there any plans to expand community involvement in other areas?
We've also got into we're doing the joint police academy, fire academy, that's taking place as we speak. So we've been expanding out as much as we can. One of the things that I'd like to get more involved in is, and I'm not sure if we're participating anymore, we were participating, and I have to check with the high schools when they do their career days, and we had been participating in the past, but I think we just need to be more active with what we're doing. It doesn't seem that we're getting too many people from our own local area. We get a few, but none like out of the high school, out of Lathrop High. There's just very few. They come and then they go, and so I think we need to figure out how we're getting them, if we're getting them, and how do we capture them and keep them, involved. So that's one of the things that we're working on.
One of the things that LA County did recently is that they got all their, and of course they're larger, more pool, they got all their females together and put on just a female academy, a weekend academy kind of, and showing girls what there's available, and that they're able to get out there and get stuff done. We might look at something like that. We would take not just us, but county-wide to put that together, and bring in AMR and MDA, to do the EMS side and kind of put together a little academy and invite all the high schools. Work with the Office of Ed or something.
And I think that we were looking at, potentially, BTEC was going to move some of their classes off-site for the first responder, and I had spoken with Dr. Horwood from the Lathrop High School at one point to talk about teaching over there, but he's not going to be returning next year, so there's just some moving parts all over the place, so we just need to figure out what we can do, but I truly believe we need to reach out. But then again, we're dealing with a whole different culture of, millennial coming out of there, and they just don't have the drive that we had back in the day. They just don't have that. They have some great attributes that they're bringing to the society, but some of the hard work and drive and, that we had from our fathers and from that were taught to us, it's just not happening. So we'll see what we can do.
Well, yeah, but remember one thing too, in those days too, one job kept a whole family in very good shape. So they also have to deal with another reality, which is that everybody in that family is going to have to work to just barely make ends meet. So the focus is more into the earning potential than it is into the service. Service has become a secondary thing. We still do it. That's why if you go to the Lions and the Kiwanis and the Rotaries, everybody is of a certain age. You won't find the 20, 30, even early 40-year-olds anymore, But my question following that lead was to, and I always forget it's BTEC, it's, because that seems to be doing really, really good. But their focus is also, do you think that it has to do also with the focus of the school on college bound?
I do. I think that gives some kids another opportunity to reach out, especially when it focuses on, because RITEC is, another great school that we have in our district that we reach out to, and we participate in some of the activities there. But the B-Tech over at the charter at the Manteca Unified School District, they focus on you can do, if you want to do chef, culinary, if you want to do, they call it industrial, and they got an IT program, and they got first responder, PD, medic, and so whatever you want to do, because not everybody wants to, go to a four-year college. Some people are going to come out in the workforce, and they're going to be paramedics, and they're going to be firefighters, and they're going to be people that work in construction, and they're going to be building technology and that kind of stuff. So it really kind of focuses and gives them the drive to do that. I have a child that goes there, and she's in the first responder program, and she has done very, very well academically in that program because she has that drive to really want to come to school and participate in some of the other stuff. So, great program. I think that we have been, whatever they've needed, we've done it. We donated turnouts from the stuff that we took out of service in our organization. We've helped them get turnouts from other organizations. And so we bring them over to our training facility, and they do rescues and whatever we can do without putting them in harm's way, obviously. We don't put them in the fire or anything. And but it's a great program, and I think it's one of our best programs for outreach, it really is.
So in the same breath that we went, okay, the open houses was to invite the community to come and participate with us and everything else. I think that right there with the joint police and firefighter academy, in other words, once these things are coming up, is going to the high school or the elementary, with the older grades or whatever you guys think, and doing it more a show and invite. In other words, give them a show of what police officers do, what firefighters do, and then invite them to an academy,
Well, and that's a good point you just brought up, and it reminded me, actually. We have kind of the program that we've lost the Explorer program. We haven't lost it, but we've kind of fell short on really revitalizing that, and I think that's one thing we need to work on this year is revitalizing the Explorer program. We used to be in partnership with the Boy Scouts in doing that, and I have to check with Captain Forbeen where we've kind of dropped the ball on that, and I think that's another outreach for the high school kids, because we had high school kids that came in from the Explorers to the Reserves, and some of them got hired, and some of them moved on, but it was a path for them, and I think that's something that we need to revitalize this year. I'm going to put that down.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, because with this age group is, when you're in school, the focus is college bound. So they're wanting to please everybody, and you're right, but if what you really want to do, you see it, and it's something else, then you will have, that incentive to move forward.
Well, one of the things that you face in today's fire service is that you need to have some college behind you. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're going to move up through the ranks, I mean.
Yeah, but
need
you
to
know
have
my
some sort
story,
of-
Gene. I mean, you don't want to put them through pre-med for them
No,
to come
no.
in the room and tell you what I would really wanted to be was a firefighter. In other words, then they know that maybe they're going to college, but it's a different scenario. It's
agree.
not the push of the dentist or the doctor, because that's really not what you really wanted to do
Right.
in the first place.
No, good. No, that's good. We'll put that in.
Because, I mean, I've actually had young folks, of people that I know, that the parents have asked me, what do they do if they want to go into firefighting, because, and these are kids that are going through programs already in high school to go to college and everything else. But it doesn't seem to be something that is readily available. I told a parent about a year ago, I says, well, Delta College has a great program. And they're like, what? I have other two kids that go to Delta College. So it's just talking to them in the same manner as they do for teachers, even culinary, There's a big program of culinary because it is a job that you can most likely get and also pays halfway decent. But I think I hear a lot in terms of firefighting, well, you know, that's something that you probably never get a job because you're going to compete with 2,700 people. So just giving it a different spin. But if they see it, you know.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we'll work on that.
And then so we expand our community outreach to a younger generation, because I think we're doing a very good. The fact that there was a barbecue honoring firefighters and police officers that is now extending throughout the county. Ripon just did one because they liked ours. Stockton is talking, everybody is. But it took a community that knew the value for a group to get together and say, hey, we want to do this. So I think that the community is already there, but maybe now we link it to the new employees, younger generation.
Okay. And then the other one was skill training. We do send out a lot of our guys to go to different things. This year, we kind of held back a little bit from going to FDIC, but we do send them to opportunities when we can outside the county to expand their knowledge and skill base.
But that's also us. Because going to the conference and getting our certs, then the board, what is that award we get when the whole board goes?
Oh, shoot, I forgot, but yeah, it makes it to where even your insurance is cheaper. You get a better rating and everything else.
So it's important for us to go to Napa in July.
Yeah. It is that the governing body has the tools to govern is what these things are there. You know, I can't go into a lot of detail about this, but I'll tell you that for some reason, I had to put together a presentation about the skill level of the board of directors, and it was quite an impressive piece. In terms of, maybe we don't have a little piece of paper that tells us this is what the board does, but we have the ability, because it's been given to us, to not only access all of the different laws, regulations and whatever, but we're trained on it. So I was quite impressed when I read it after it was done. So I think that skill training, I would even put a strength there on the board, to be really honest with you,
Okay.
and the administration.
Would you like to expand on that then, to make it skill training? So you're good with employees, you're good with diversity and experience and background as a strength, right? These are strengths.
Well, it's
community-
it's above and beyond. I mean that,
And skill training with throughout the board, throughout the organization?
Right, I think it goes on to what we were talking about, sustainability. Skill training goes with the sustainability goal of getting people to be able to fill in when someone else is not there, to have that replacement stuff. So skill training, it covers a lot, and that's a heavy responsibility, but we have a strength. That's also kind of right now, kind of a little weakness in one little area. We just keep pushing forward in that, in skilled training. Because we're looking at what, the fire marshal, a board secretary, you know, maybe the inspector stepping up, all of that, so. All the things the chief outlined.
I mean, sometimes we don't realize. I mean, I was thinking about it last week because of what I had said earlier here. I can't go into details, but we went through, 5 years of audits? That is, most agencies can't even make one through a year because it's such a complicated and massive project. I mean, About time we start giving us some pats in the back.
Well,
We're still elected officials, so I mean,
Yeah, but think about where
we're
we-
still not,
Think where we were 6 years ago, 8 years ago.
it's amazing. I mean,
Like Chief said, coming in here with 350,000 in the hole, you know, laying people off, no chiefs. It was just him.
no.
And
And everybody coming to the podium to gripe and complain, you know, it's been a long time.
Yeah, I still have some holes in my shirts from that.
But we tried 218, didn't work, so we got, you know, Measure C came. There's been a lot of collaborative things, not just with us, but between us and the firefighters and with the city and with other agencies.
We've come a long way. It's been a long road. It really has, and we're looking at building a new station. They're going to have the kickoff meeting next week sometime, so they're already going to look at doing the ground remediation because it's got the liquefaction problem. So once that's done, then the building's going to be, concrete's going to be poured. I mean, that station's going to be built before you know it.
Wow.
One of the other things that we just got back, and it wasn't an award, and I was going to announce it the other day, but yesterday, but I wanted to wait till today's meeting to do it, is we got some requests for more information for our SAFER grant. And they requested a letter and, acknowledging the board was aware of us putting in for that SAFER grant, and you were, because I advised you guys when we did it. So that letter got sent off, and if we get that, that'll be a great, that's 9 personnel. They pay 75% of everything.
2 years.
3 years, 75, and then 35. But we'll have so much growth if everything continues the way it is. Those individuals we'll be able to hire them, train them, and put them at the new station. Well, we'll obviously hire people up that are here and have 9 new firefighters. But it's really looking good for that, and if that happens, if that comes to fruition, that'll be great. So I think we've come a long way. We've put a lot of things in place. We've done a lot of good things, and so we just need to keep those strengths that we just narrowed down. I think that helps us. It helps us, validate everything that we're doing and what we've done.
But I would also, okay, we've got the employees, we've got the diversity and experience background, community involvement outreach, skill training, which we're going to enhance. I truly believe that needs to happen. But there's another piece here too, and that is that, because one of the things, and I believe it might be in the weaknesses, or I don't remember where, but the thing about, Bob used to talk about it a lot, trying to get all of the agency together, trying to have people talk, and that seemed to be such a complicated issue. However, we seem to now be in the forefront of, I hear all the time where, an agency wants to talk to the chief or wants to talk to firefighters are going out, or Larry's doing a lot of work in terms of that. It seems like now we're kind of being sought after. So we are, I don't know, I don't know how to put that in a very short sentence, but,
Kind of setting the pace, but what's the word we want to use?
yeah.
Well, I think we're going to be the first ones really who's going to be using the electronic PCRs, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to be an agency that does.
The first BLS? The first
That was my
BLS?
understanding.
Isn't that a county project, though? Wasn't it?
Right, but we're going to be the
We'll be the
first.
first ones with it, though.
We're going to be the first one.
Everybody has to have it by July 1, but we'll be the first ones.
Yeah, it's my understanding, we're going to be the first one. And then go into, which I don't really understand, why don't you just make us, them.
It's by days, though.
EMT
You're right.
2s versus EMT basics, EMT intermediates, but there's going to be drugs on the rigs now, too. But, so there's moving forward in those kinds of things, and if we don't mess up, then we should be, again, we're going to be not only the forefront, but an example, good or bad.
So how can we put that in a very
Yeah.
short sentence?
Bullet point.
A bullet point as a strength. I think we're being.
Trendsetters?
No, we're not like industry leaders, but in some ways we are. I don't know. I don't see it right now as a strength. Because we have a target on our back.
What do you mean?
Well, because if we mess up, then it's a huge weakness.
Well, then it's a weakness.
Yeah, but the fact that we're willing to take a chance, that should be a strength. I mean, you know, you jump into the hot pot all the time and sometimes you get burned. But it's that willingness to be a part of it.
Innovative?
Progressive innovation.
There you go.
Progressive innovation.
I like
Yeah,
that.
that would kind of work, yeah. But it's too broad still.
Well, we're, as a strength, we're being progressive. When we got in the last, let's go back 10 years. In the last 10 years, we didn't have a dive team. We do have a dive team. We've always done a little hazmat, but that's kind of grown. USAR, there's a lot of things that we've did little bits and pieces, but we've really become an integral part of county response teams. Air quality control vehicle that eventually we'll get, providing services for large events.
How about progressive innovation, emergency response? Innovative emergency response.
Or you could
Progressive-
even put the drive. I think that it is the drive of this district to be progressive in all areas.
Motivated.
You're awful quiet,
You can
Ty.
almost leave it as progressive.
Throw some words out there.
Progressive,
Progressive thinking board and staff?
Leaving it as just progressive.
Yeah, progressive.
Because progressive leaves
I think it's a target.
Yeah.
I was just going off the definition.
Oh, there you go, read it.
yeah, that's what we're here to.
Yeah, read it.
Yeah,
It says happening, developing gradually or in stages, proceeding step by step. Or of a group or person of idea favoring or implementing social reform or new liberal ideas. Or a person advocating or implementing social reform or new.
Well, we're doing industrial reform.
So I think just leaving it as progressive.
Yeah.
so progressive,
Yeah, but it's got to be,
in the
progressive, yes,
industry.
but there has to be it's either progressive thinking, progressive actions, progressive people,
how about
you want to leave
progressive,
it completely open?
progressive emergency response?
It's more than that. It's progressive in the thinking of even getting involved.
that's-
Hey,
that's
let's
good.
face it,
Progressive.
even looking at this joint powers agreement, where for years they've been pushing people to look at mergers and all kinds of stuff. I don't know of anybody else that was talking about it in San Joaquin County, yet we all went to all the, whether it happens or not, or it's good or bad, we don't seem to shy away from looking at things like that and moving forward if needed, or backing away and starting all over. Measure C, big time. We went first the property one. That didn't work, we went another way. We just don't shy away.
Right, and I think it goes down to the firefighters the same way. They go to a class, or they come from another agency, and they bring something, the cross pole, instead of a straight pole, something that came in, it's kind of like, and I prefer that better, to put the whole loads on my shoulder. So our firefighters do the same thing. They find something and they bring it in, and they don't shy away or say, hey, this is what I learned. So right down to the guys, they're progressive in looking for different ways. So, and I agree though, it's progressive thinking or progressive, but
Well,
progressive something.
I like Bob's word, innovations. I mean, they're innovations, this new stuff that we're trying to put in.
I think I came up with that, but okay.
Go progressive innovation.
His left
so-
ear is better than his right ear.
That's all
I
right.
like progressive thinking. I like Bob's progressive thinking.
Roll the tape back, no?
I think I did. I said progressive innovation.
Yeah, we know what it is.
after you say
Progressive innovation. I know, let me do what Gish did here. Let's look at innovation and see if the two words will go together.
Okay.
What two words?
Well, the other bullets are very specific. Your strength are your employees, that's very concrete. Your diversity and experience and background, very concrete. Your community involvement and outreach, your skilled training. Progressive just leaves us more abstract.
Yeah. Okay. All right, next one, weaknesses.
He wants to move us on, I'm not ready yet.
But isn't,
We have a lot more to do.
I know, go ahead.
isn't the strength actually the willingness to try the innovations?
Absolutely. I think that if we would have not had that drive, that in some instances took almost hammering in the head of some board members to move forward, we wouldn't be where we are today. God only knows where we would be,
Well, what we're doing today is progressive, innovative thought. Nobody does this. There's not too many people that do it.
Progressive and innovative culture, whether it be, how about that, Bob? Whether it be the staff, from the bottom to the top, the board.
Winner.
Perfect.
Winner.
That's a winner. I got it written down. Okay, are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, good. Weaknesses. So, Measure C, effective justification is one we had as a weakness. We had lack of institutional knowledge as a weakness, losing people and losing that institutional knowledge. Employee retention was a weakness, communication weaknesses, and interagency differences was a weakness.
Okay, now, this is the second or maybe third year in a row that the whole, and it's on the paper,
You're right,
but it's not
you're
up there,
right,
the
you're
whole
right.
lack of racial and gender diversity.
No, we corrected that, so I know it's not on this, but is it in this?
It's on the paper, it's not on the board.
This one's from 2 years ago. This one's from 2 years ago, from Benny Gattos.
Yeah, I'm saying
Yeah.
it fell off again.
Well,
It fell off
again,
last year.
but I think this is an old PowerPoint that we didn't get transposed to the paper. But we did correct it. I remember coming back and fixing it.
Uh,
I remember being in the audience and,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
So it's just not on the right now. I want to change it. We'll get it changed. I'm not saying we won't change it.
That's why I wanted this to happen way before, because that way,
That's a
yeah.
huge weakness that we have is getting away from the good old boy club.
Lack of racial and gender diversity.
So I think, going back to a previous discussion, that this is what we did last year, and that was from 2 years ago. I think we used that to correct this.
Okay.
That was what we did to come up with this.
I think you may be right.
Yeah, I think
You may
so.
be right.
Yeah. But anyway, that's.
So let's just walk through them, and I'm going to type them, and I'll have them transposed onto transferred onto the new one for our review on June.
No, because fireboard training, we took fireboard training last year off.
Okay, so we got two documents we can look at to try to.
We're creating a new one, so.
Right.
Yeah, let's look at both. We'll look at that one and this one.
We know we want lack of, right,
Yes,
racial,
and gender diversity, yes.
You know,
I don't know how you correct it, but we gotta do something.
Yeah, lack of racial and
Gotta be
gender
innovative.
diversity.
Culturally innovative.
Well, we put that as a
claim that we
strength.
are.
I think we really need to spend some time on these.
okay.
Because we took the Measure C thing off last year. That's not a weakness anymore.
Yeah, that's right, you're right. Measure C, we don't see it as a weakness anymore,
Nope.
Okay,
unless, Chief, you have
No.
any information.
I think it's an opportunity for community outreach.
no, it's not a weakness.
Now, lack of institutional knowledge, we talked about our succession planning and so forth. Have we gotten to a point where we can say that it's no longer a weakness, or is it still a weakness?
I think it's always going to be a weakness because you're just not going to have, we have a large gap in the way we have things. I mean, myself and Matt Deschamps are the only two people that have been here longer than, what's Josh's time span here? 15 years? Yeah, if that. So you have 20 years, 23, 24 years, all the way down to 15. There's a huge gap there. So, for instance, and that's one of the things we talk about when we look at the goals. When I leave, the only person that really knows anything about the entity report and the fire facility fee report and all that are very few, if any. That's something that has to be passed down, and it's a report that has to be done. And now you're putting more workload on other individuals. So that's just something that why I'm saying we need to make sure that the succession plan has individuals that are designated to those. There's certain programs and certain things that have to be done. Now, I've moved Becky into doing the entity report, and I help her with that, and of course, I approve it when she does it all. But we need to expand that. It needs to be more than 1 or 2 people known. When I became the fire chief, when Chief Medowski was promoted and came on board, I brought him in on everything, showed him where all the skeletons are, so to speak, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but where all the books are held, where all the passwords are kept, where everything can be found, so that if anything ever happened to me, I mean, I could be hit by a truck tomorrow, walking out of here. Somebody has to be able to make sure that this facility, it'll always be here. This place is gonna run with or without me. But it would be more efficient if they knew where the passwords were. So we wanna make sure that that stuff is passed down. And that's just a very simplistic look at what I'm talking about.
So my question would be, theoretically, would that be a board responsibility or a chief responsibility? I mean, I think the board responsibility is to put people in place that you can pass that information down to. And so we put the battalion chiefs in place. So now, it would seem that it would be your responsibility to make sure that they get put in the positions that they need to be in to learn that kind of stuff.
You're
It's not something we can do from this level.
No, but it's a goal that we need to achieve as an organization, and this is about us doing it together, right? This is about a strategic operational plan for us to achieve that. So when I come to you, and I'm just using this as an example, and I say, we're gonna promote the deputy marshal to fire marshal because this, that, and the other, it's not like, well, why are we doing that? Well, the reason why we're doing that is because we're talking about it today. That's why. So it's an objective plan of a succession guide or direction that you gave me to accomplish, and I'm going to bring back those objectives to achieve that goal. As we get through these weaknesses, threats, and opportunities, we're going to build some goals together, and then I'm going to come back with objectives, how I think that I'm going to achieve them for you to adopt.
Okay.
And then that is kind of what you really should be focusing on when you evaluate the fire chief. Should be based on this document. It should be based on the goals and objectives that are put in place by this strategic operational plan. And that's what, did he achieve them? Did he get what he wanted done? We talk about it, we do this portion. It's just not a show for the audience, and I know you know that, but it's really based on a valid and things that we can show that have validity.
Well, and it guides the budget.
Absolutely. It all works
We
together.
don't see it because our budget is so tight, but having this guides a budget. When you look at, okay, where do we put our money? Well, we know that we want to improve employee retention. So how do we do that? Where do I put my money? If we had a lot of money, then the budget would say, okay, we're going to get a person in administration that goes to the colleges, that does this, well, no, not employee retention, but in building up, but for the purposes of the budget, I mean, it's very important we have something like this.
There's a whole FEMA course just on this.
Right, no,
So.
right, no, you're right. So you're absolutely right, that's something that I do, but I'm making you aware of what I need to do, and so that I want your buy-in, so that you feel that you are part of that decision-making process, and that I can walk away from here knowing that you're involved, and you're empowering me to complete that.
But the topics also have to be measurable, and so we need to come up with some way to evaluate whether or not it's happening or not.
And so that's when I come up with objectives of how to get there. So when you get the goals have to be measurable, so I come up with basically the objectives are how we're gonna measure the goal, and you agree to those.
Okay.
So you're absolutely right. You're setting, for instance, the succession plan is a huge thing in my crawl, and I'm gonna be talking about it through this whole thing, because I think it's a weakness. I think it's it's succession planning. I think it's a weakness on my fault. Not on my fault, it's just that we have not had the funding.
And resources.
And the resources, absolutely, and we need to do that, and that's me, to make sure that happens, because it's one thing to look at it from my standpoint and go, hey, there's no problem, I can do this, I got it, I'll adapt and overcome, and I'll spread it here, and I'll delegate here, and I'll delegate there, and I'll delegate there. This year, or this time that we're in right now, I am gonna focus extremely on what is gonna happen, what this person's gonna be responsible for. And so the fire chief is just an operational guy that makes decisions on that kind of stuff. And so we've worked towards that, but it needs to be in stone, and the board needs to acknowledge that's in place. And it has to take some process.
Then
So,
go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
so the objectives will be measurable. So one of the goals may be to establish and provide extensive or a comprehensive succession plan and report back to the board, whatever, within 6 months or something of that nature of how we've done that. And so that may be something you give as a goal. And then I will give you objectives of how I'm going to achieve that, and then you will be able to measure those objectives of whether I achieved it or not. But they have to be measurable, you're absolutely.
Like with board secretary, appointing Becky as board secretary, we know we've done that.
It might be just, providing a stable and a link for communications for the board to other government agencies or other government authorities. And so,
But then what we need to do at this point is, because, and you probably remember I've said this for a couple of years now, because they have to be measurable, they have to also make sense. Employee retention. I mean, for God's sake, until we become a Fresno or San Francisco or San Jose, employee retention is going to be an issue, because we will never have the kind of money to pay the wages that are offered elsewhere. And so this has been this district has been a training ground for years and years and years and years, and how can you get mad at anybody that wants a better life, that wants more money, that wants,
and we don't do that here. If people.
if nothing else, employee retention, we got some people here that have been here forever. So obviously, the people that did not need for whatever at one point or another, or couldn't at one point or another,
Right.
they didn't go,
You're right, and that's a whole class on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so when you look at an employee, why he left, it could have nothing to do with our organization. I'll give you a couple of them. We lost Evan, Bobono, thank you for his last name. Evan Bobono, great individual, outstanding firefighter, used to drive from Half Moon Bay to be here, a nugget. His dad, his uncle, everybody was a firefighter in his family. To be here at 4 o'clock in the morning and sleep in the parking lot at Save Mart because he didn't want to be late for work. He didn't want to get caught in traffic and be late for work while he was through probation. Now, he went to San Mateo, but it wasn't because he didn't love our organization or he didn't love who he was working with and he didn't want to stay here and he was happy with the money because he was happy with the money he was making. It was closer to home. I mean, how can we knock the guy for wanting to stay closer to home? It had nothing, he's making a little bit more money, but it had nothing to do with anything that our organization wasn't providing for him, or that our culture here wasn't providing for him. Another one was Hendershot, Mark Hendershot, same thing. He lived in Woodwood, right? Woodwood City?
Yeah, and then he went to,
Contra Costa County. which is closer to him. So we lose employees, not necessarily, we train them well, and they do get a lot of training, you're absolutely right. When they go somewhere else, they love what we give them, but not necessarily is always because of wages. But then there is people that want to make more money that will go to San Francisco and they'll go to other organizations.
Or it's just not a fit.
Right, it's just not a fit. We haven't lost too many, when's the last person we lost? Do you remember? Oh, Chris Martinez, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost him.
But that's
in Montego.
normal. Your younger folks are going to want the money.
Yeah,
Your older folks are going to want the stability and the tranquility and maybe closer to home. So, but the reality is that I've seen, the John Vargases of the world and everything else. For years and years and years, I saw firefighters that loved it here, but went either for proximity to home, more money, and so forth. And I don't think that is any different than any other fire department, unless you are one of those fire departments that gives you everything you want.
Yeah.
Although I also hear firefighters that went for that say, gee, I wish I would have stayed in a more peaceful, quieter station
yeah,
or fire district.
okay.
Lack of institutional knowledge, you say that's, Measure C needs to go.
Yeah, I got that off.
That one needs to go. Employee retention, I believe, but I'm only one. Interagency differences.
Do you want
The
to,
whole world is crazy. Are we going to make a difference?
yeah,
I think so. I think we already are on interagency differences.
You're right.
We're already making difference. Look at all the radios we got, not just for us, but for everybody. So we make a difference in our interagency. Employee retention, it's a weakness. I think it'll always be a weakness. It has to do with, or do we do exit interviews? And that's an HR job, and that may not be.
we do.
That's a large job. Sit down and then correct yourself,
We do employee exit interviews.
So that's where you find out what's going on and why, and.
But do you want to leave it in weaknesses?
I think so. I think you leave, always just, because that's just a little chink in the armor that we got, I think, always be abreast of that. Because we could have an excess and it's kind of, whoa, keep an eye open for those kinds of things.
Well, I think we were just told, that we don't really have an employee retention problem, that people don't want to leave, they want to stay, people aren't leaving. So I question whether or not it's a weakness.
I don't
Are we
think it
losing
is.
people?
I don't think it is.
Yeah, we're not losing people.
Well-
It's only a weakness if you can't do it. We
Right.
seem to be doing it.
And so I was pushing to the full-time guys. We have lost some reserves recently, but the full-time guys, but Bob had pointed out that we do have a turnover of reserves. Director Gleason had pointed out we do have a turnover of reserves, but the full-time guys, we haven't lost recently a
Do we
lot.
consider reserves employees? No.
No,
So that's not an employee retention
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
No, but I think you take their opinion, especially if you're gonna look at, that core group, trying to retain just a core group of a volunteer. You gotta find out what are they looking for, especially with millennials, because that's where they're gonna come in. The millennials are gonna come in, that's your practice area. And you go to I've gone to seminars on how to
And remember-
manage millennials.
Right.
So,
And we got I think volunteer retention may be something we put in, but, and take out employee. And I think we still have threats, so we have threats and opportunities. And I think that employee retention could be a threat, and if we had to worry about not being able to keep up with the surge.
Yeah, but you don't leave a weakness to, remember, this is to put all of your effort this coming year.
Yeah.
You don't put a weakness of something that if we got it good now, but if we let go of the foot, it could become bad.
Okay.
Because then you are putting effort into things that may or may not happen. And hopefully, we have done good enough to not be there. If you want to change employee to volunteer, or whatever.
Or
I
reserve.
think,
Or reserve,
I think
then,
that's
yeah,
good.
that would make more sense.
It could be, because I think volunteer, because then that brings in CERT and any other program.
Yeah.
Why do CERT people leave? Find out, that retention.
But interagency differences, it's going to be there for the rest of this district's life, because there's always going to be differences with other, it's not a weakness, it's something we want to build on, but it's not a weakness.
Would be an opportunity?
Yeah, it would be an opportunity. Thank you.
Unless you focus on our volunteers.
Yeah, well, at this
It's
point,
more than just
we
500.
had the secession that we agreed, I think, that was going to go up there, correct, Gene? Or Chief? Yeah.
Yes,
The reserve, or whatever you want to call it, retention, lack of institutional knowledge is still up there. I don't know how you're going to do it, if you're just going to build manuals or, but we'll let you figure that one out.
Do you think
But
communication-
interagency differences, and I'm going to tackle communication here in a minute, because this district has spent a good portion of the last 3 or 4 years trying to make things clearer and clearer and clearer. So I don't know what communication really means up here. If it is communication between the public and us, communication between employees and us, we're going to have to define that, because the way I understood it originally, I don't feel it's an issue. When we put this on the board is because we couldn't even figure out what a policy was. We couldn't figure out, okay, if this happens, how do we do it? Employees didn't know that either. If you have, but then you're going to have to tell us that. If you have a good communication tool, but people don't like it, or people haven't read it and don't follow it, it's not a communication issue. It is a behavioral issue. But
I would completely agree with you. The communication is not a weakness at this organization. It should be a strength. We have so many means of communicating with the organization through so many different avenues. The labor group, we have regular labor management meetings with them. Whenever there's an issue, we have a great relationship with the e-board, communicating with the labor force. It's there. It's happening through the e-board. When that's happening, if you're hearing from other people, then I can't tell you that that's truly happening, because that's not the majority of the labor workforce. We have communications for whatever, email. We utilize the iPhones we have out there for emergency communications. We're using iPhones that are transmitting the alarms on the iPhone that they can carry with them around. We have iPads for them to respond and communicate with. We have done computers. There's every avenue for someone to reach out to an individual who is in charge of human resources, the fire chief, fire prevention, and the different disciplines that I've assigned out to the battalion chiefs, whether it be training or personnel or EMS. Everything is really flowing very well. There was a time when we put this on here that it was just me. And I think this is kind of an after effect of us not being able to answer all their questions. It was hard to communicate at the time, and we did have some rough spots with the labor force, and we have worked through those, and we have stepped away from that completely in a better light. So I think it's time to remove it from weakness.
You're still, the other side of that is, if it showed up as a weakness last year, or in this case, 2 years ago, theoretically, we've addressed it, and it should be able to come off the board as a weakness. I mean, most of these things should be able to come off as weaknesses, because
Absolutely.
the whole idea of listing them 1 year is to address them so that they won't be weaknesses the next year.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's why I asked, we're going to have to define it, because what I understand of communication, it should have come off. But if somebody has a different version of what communication is, then we got to address it if we feel that it is an issue, the way it should be addressed.
So we're still communicating with your command staff, video conferencing, so they don't all
I'm
have to.
sorry, that's another
Right, they
meeting.
don't have to all come in, so they can stay at their station, saves us fuel and time. I think when we, as an organization, inter-organization, we're doing okay in regards to communicating Everybody understands when it's sent out. They may not like the policy, but they all get the policy. How are we doing in communicating with other agencies? How are we doing in communicating with the county? Obviously, we're not communicating very well with EMS because we ask for things and they don't quite understand the 3-word question. Because it's a really short question. We want this, and then they go off and give us 2 pages of why they can't provide that. So is that our fault? Is it their fault? I don't know. I see the communication, so I can't say, I understand what we're asking for. It makes sense. I don't understand the response we've gotten. Am I off field? Does everybody else, do they understand the response we're getting?
Well, you got to look at the request, which we have, and you got to look at the answer. And to be really honest with you, what I get from that is a response from somebody that really doesn't want to
Give
deal
us the
with.
answer, yeah.
And that's, again, it's not a communication issue, it's a behavioral issue. Now, if it was our behavioral issue, then we could say that we have a weakness addressing behavioral issues within our agency. But definitely, we can't tackle the county, you know, or the, whatever. And the chief gets these letters all the time, you know, sometimes they say, well, we won't want to hear from you, we want your board member to tell us. You know, it's just, one thing that I found out about being part of a district, and you talked about, you know, it's a male-driven district or whatever, but it's also the power one, you know, we save lives, we go after people, whatever, is that the communication is usually like this. But the only thing that I am concerned about is how did our communication go out? And myself as a chair and chairs before me, we see those letters. There's no disrespect or anything. If they're coming back, it's not our issue. You know, they need to address it in their own SWOT analysis.
Right.
Agree. So what I have in weaknesses, I have 4 items: lack of racial and gender diversity, lack of institutional knowledge, volunteer retention, and succession plan.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah?
yes.
Okay.
You know, I know
Back?
generally that a SWOT analysis is bullet points, like we're doing. But I think the chair raised a great point. Perhaps we want to think about actually adding a sentence someplace, not necessarily
Is there-
even in the same document, but a definition. I mean, what exactly do we mean by that?
Isn't
More
it like on goals
clarification
and
on what those-
strategies?
Huh?
Wouldn't it be like on goals and strategies? The sentences?
Yes, I think you're right.
Well, bullet points have to have the ability for you to address it with a verbal action or a written action. And that's why, you know, when you look at communication, if you don't know what you're dealing with, you're never going to be able to, you know, communication could be that, okay, our communication is not understood by others, therefore, clarity in agents' communication or something like that. Because then you could say, okay, we're going to train staff to communicate more directly or less abstract, you know, more concrete, or whatever it may be. But I really don't think we have an issue with that. Now, if there is an issue out there of, we don't like it, then, and the board feels that it is a weakness, then we need to address it the way it should be, and not that we have bad communication. Because that's what a weakness says, we have bad communication. Heck, no.
Okay.
Sometimes we get too much communication.
I know,
Well, that could be a
especially the
weakness,
board chair.
So the next one is opportunities, where we look at growth, and we'll go through SWOT, and then we'll take a break for dinner, if that's all right with everybody, or we can take a break now, it's 5:30. It's up to you.
No, let's go to
Halfway through.
6.
Huh?
Let's go through the next 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Opportunities were looked at, and we, last year, or a couple years ago, whenever we wanted to look at this, it was growth, training, JPA, joint powers agreements, and better interagency relations.
Again, growth, where?
An opportunity for what? What is growth going to give us an opportunity for?
Well, I think last year when we talked about it, I think when we talked about growth, we talked about the fact that we were building a station and that we would be
That's right.
growing as a department.
That's right. Yeah.
But now we've got the stations underway with, gone through planning, and we've going to get the SAFER grant for staffing. So is it still an opportunity, or we're well into it, now it's no longer an opportunity?
I think,
You realize that you have gone above and beyond, and when I say you, I mean all staff involved with anything that they had to do. When it comes to growth, we have gone above and beyond because we are now in the mode of improving existing infrastructure. We're not only building new infrastructure, we are improving, and that's not only in buildings, but in equipment. So the opportunities are, if we're gonna put it in opportunities, it has to be much broader in terms of enhancing, but not necessarily just in pure growth. Same thing's gonna happen in training. If you wanna put training and opportunity, now we're looking at enhancing. Where else do we wanna go? We went to the paramedic piece. We're still building on that. So it could be something like, that we leave JPA Joint Powers Agreement that we have to put, or any other, because I don't know what's going to happen with that.
well, it doesn't have to be a joint powers agreement where we're doing a workforce. For instance, the dispatch joint powers agreement was a good agreement, and there's opportunities out there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there's other.
Okay, more, I was just thinking about the one.
But
I
we-
see what you mean, yeah.
Right.
In growth, we got, I don't think the growth, on the growth thing, I think it's recruitment. Now that we're implementing the things that we've done, station, SAFER grant, it's going to be on recruitment. And then the recruitment goes back into diversity in regards to gender, and whatever.
Ethnicity.
Thank you.
How about district growth? Or growth in the district?
It's still kind of, how about, building on existing growth?
Implementing? I don't,
No, because it's building. I mean, the new station is going to be what the new station is going to be, and that has its river islands and whatever. But we've gone further than that. Actually, what has happened is because we put opportunities that are so difficult to achieve, we went into some other opportunities that we didn't even have here. And they were part of the budget. They cost money, even though we got grants and everything else. Staff has moved to improve the existing infrastructure, whether it be, so opportunities to continue continue improvement of existing infrastructure. How about that, Chief?
Oh, I put building on existing growth. I thought that was,
No, but growth is just, it's too generic.
okay. Growth, building on what?
Building on, oh shoot, I forgot.
Existing
Building on existing infrastructure.
Okay, infrastructure?
And infrastructure. So that means that it's not only buildings but it's also equipment.
Okay.
Refresh.
I'm sorry, what?
Refresh.
Refresh, yeah.
Infrastructure and recruitment, because recruitment's people.
There you go. Did you hear that one?
You want all of that in there?
Say it again.
I think it's infrastructure and recruitment, because then we've got real property and we've got people.
Okay.
And we've got some great opportunities as we bring more people in.
Same with training. The training is outstanding, but it has to be improved. But I don't want to put improved training because then it looks like our training is
Well,
not.
I think training and opportunities is perfect because the opportunity for us to go to the the CSDA.
Okay.
For the board, if you make it too specific, then it's too
Yeah.
specific.
But
Training-
build it in terms of enhanced then.
Well, yeah,
In
are
other
we-
words, we are going to,
Okay.
Are we
Build
providing
on more.
classes where other agencies pay to come to us?
We haven't done that recently, but we're focusing because we've expanded everything we're doing with the new truck coming and the hazmat program. We've been training a lot of our own personnel. We haven't expanded out and have classes for other organizations.
Because that'd be a great opportunity to be, again, a leader within the county, for them to come here, and we be the host.
Okay.
Whether it be wildland, hazmat, sending them through, not everyone has a burn room, send them through the burn room, working with other agencies and their new recruits or joint academies, those kinds of things.
Well, what I think we did last year, or at least what's on the paper, says training for succession for staff and fire board. So I mean, so that's what we talked about, I think, the last time we talked about training. And we've talked about succession today a lot.
yeah.
So perhaps, if we're trying to define training,
Okay, I like that.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. More specific is always better. The good thing is, that Chief and other staff, is that we've been fortunate enough as a board that you guys have moved on with very little guidance in terms of, okay, opportunities for growth. Okay, so we're going to build a
Well, we've grown.
bar in the back of the,
On training, how, in regards to ratios, time spent, fire suppression and attack versus EMS, how are we, is it, we train 20% EMS and 80% fire, what's our? Training in our
Respond
training.
is one thing, but training, I'd have to look at the training activity report and put those numbers together for you. It would be as simple as that. Do you have your computer with you?
You're looking for a rate, it's 50/50 almost.
About 50/50, we're spending 50% of our training on EMS stuff.
Let us provide you with an accurate number.
Well, let me just say, I'm just throwing this out. As a former training officer for years, I always look at training as a strength and not an opportunity. I mean.
Yeah, I know.
Training should be your strength. Because to say it's an opportunity kind of implies you're not doing it, or you're not doing it well.
I think, but if we're really strong here, we branch out to invite the other, it's an opportunity to shine, to be a leader, innovative.
but there you go, you
Training.
got, to be a leader, that would make it more an opportunity.
That's not training?
Not for us, that's training. We're training somebody else.
We're training someone else.
Yeah.
So what'd you put that?
Oh, well, I wouldn't, well,
I
don't know that that's-
Educational? I don't know.
yeah.
But see, again, you moved in that direction, but it wasn't just the specific training, because it was an opportunity. There was an opportunity here not too long ago where both administration staff and the union got together to offer firefighters enhanced training in terms of mental health. Those are things that are not, I see opportunities as things that are not required at all. Because we're doing this so good, we have an opportunity to move forward.
Yeah,
Yeah, I look at it as showing other people how to do it.
But for me, again, just like with the weakness, if you identify it as an opportunity one year, then hopefully, eventually, it's going to be a strength because you took advantage of the opportunity. We can't keep listing it as an opportunity because then it says we're not
Yeah, no,
taking
I
advantage
agree.
of our
I agree.
opportunities.
Unless you super enhance it.
Right, where you go from like training within the department to training outside, that'd be enhancing it, that'd be taking it a step further. We're so good at USAR, now we're training the county. I don't know if we are or not, but.
Okay,
it was just-
how about if we do this? You got building on existing infrastructure and recruitment, you got enhanced training, why don't we put expand EMS training? Because that's what we're working on right now.
There we go.
It's an opportunity, we're expanding our EMS training. It's an opportunity, we don't have to do it, it's optional. We're expanding it. It's an
Is
opportunity
that
for
the
us.
paramedic thing?
Well, it's moving towards that way, but right now, we're just doing the,
But I mean, when you say enhance
I don't say
EMS
enhance,
training.
expand.
Expand
Expand.
EMS training, that means expanding it, we're looking at possibly going to paramedic.
Yeah,
Right, so that would be the expansion.
yeah. That's an opportunity, right?
Right, and that would be an opportunity.
There we
Yes.
go.
So that would be expanding the level of service for EMS, not necessarily the training. I mean, training would go with it, but you're looking at expanding the
Expand
level of
EMS.
Okay, yeah,
service.
yeah, the service, the EMS service.
I like that.
You're right, and then it takes the
Don't have
training
to do
piece
it.
away.
You want
Okay.
to do it.
And so we got training for succession for staff and fire board.
Isn't that gonna come off the 1st of July? I mean, or July 12th?
Say that again?
It's still a goal. It's
Are you in
opportunity.
opportunities now?
Yeah.
That's what's up.
I didn't know that there was training for board and opportunities.
There's training for succession for staff and fire board, it's on your paper.
It's on the paper.
Did last year.
Oh, no, take that off, because you already have the secession. I mean, the board can't, there is no secession for fire boards. They're either elected or they're not.
Right.
Right, but something can be a weakness and an opportunity at the same time. Even though it's a weakness, it's an opportunity. The training portion of that is an opportunity. We pointed out as a weakness, is it an opportunity for us to train for succession for staff?
No, I think it's already been addressed.
Okay, fair enough.
And with us, I think we've already started with having, Brown Act stuff and going to the conferences and doing those things.
Okay.
We're on our way, so it's no longer an opportunity
For the board,
for the board.
but not for the staff.
You should never have on opportunity something that has to happen. That would be a weakness.
Agreed.
Okay.
And we already have succession listed as a weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so opportunity?
I think that,
I
do you
wouldn't
have?
put secession there either. I mean,
No.
no,
So opportunity,
So what do you have?
what do we have at this point? Nothing.
building on existing infrastructure and recruitment and expand EMS service.
That's good.
Did we take the JPA out?
Did you want to leave it there?
As an opportunity, it's up to you
It's
guys.
still an opportunity.
Okay.
It's something that we might do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so we don't
different
have to, we
agreements.
gotta- we gotta
I
look
was
for it.
just thinking on the one.
Right.
I forgot that there's many
Yeah,
different JPAs that can be.
But even the one is still an opportunity.
Yeah, because if we look
Yeah,
at an
that's true.
opportunity to tie in with a fire academy as a work program for them, that's an opportunity, so.
Okay?
And
Anything
then, of course, with better interagency relations,
I don't think so.
we have no control over other people. Unless we put up there that we will be the leader in how to have better interagency relationships, which we're not there yet either. Or would we want to?
So an example,
So you have three, right?
Yeah. I think that's fine.
Okay.
And Chief, what's really good about this is, I think this is the first time that we've done it where it's actually, through this process, we're being able, we've seen it, because we're able to articulate where we did it.
Okay. Threats. So on the screen, you have Measure C opponents, morale, interagency differences, and privatization. And on the paper, you have not enough diversity of funding, changes in the economy, annexations and detachments, and privatization.
Okay, Measure C opponents, that's always going to be a threat, we need to leave it.
I think there's threats in regards to policy, especially the new EMS policy from the county. I think that's kind of a threat to our ability to serve our community,
so outside policies.
outside policies.
Yeah, don't identify the county one specifically.
Not specific, I'm saying as an example, but
Yeah.
that is a threat to.
Local, state, and federal.
Yeah, and then there's unfunded mandates that are coming down.
You could almost take the interagency differences and put interagency, no, because interagency is
Well,
different than
the
other agencies.
Electronic PCR program was,
An unfunded mandate.
right.
So you want to put outside local, state, and federal policy changes?
And unfunded mandates.
Want that to be a
Because they
separate
expect
one?
us to pay for stuff and
So we're going to leave Measure C opponents?
no, I don't think so.
No?
I think that's being taken care of as we speak with the little hearing that's taking place.
Okay.
I still believe that's a threat. You could have anybody come up anytime and say they want part of Measure C. We have another agency that's gonna be serving the city of Lathrop. That agency can come up to the city council and say something that they want part of me.
They're 40, yeah.
Yeah, or something. I don't think it'll happen because that agency can't serve the city as a whole. That agency serves one or two businesses or three businesses that that doesn't serve the city. That vote was passed on the city from the taxpayers. But I'm just saying, you could have a Measure C opponent. That's just one. You could have somebody from the audience that doesn't like paying 20 cents more at the grocery store. There's all kinds of things that can happen out there. So I think it's still a threat. We have to be aware of it and should keep our head on a swivel for that.
Well, but are they really threats? I mean,
Well, the council can change the amount.
Public
Yeah.
gets,
They can have a meeting
Gets
next
tired of
Monday
paying
and decide that
taxes.
we don't get 40, we get 10,
I mean,
or nothing.
Every time that comes up at a meeting, the back of my hair stands on my neck.
okay, we don't list that.
When the council asks questions about Measure C, or where that money's going, they did it just the other day.
Yeah, that money meeting. It just shows, and it does show that the council is not watching the committee or looking at data. They're not reading.
There's other things that are back there that are facing that, and I just think that it's gonna always be a threat. It's always gonna be a threat. There's no way around that threat.
So how about if we don't address it as Measure C opponents, but we measure it as
Funding?
stability, funding?
Funding stability.
Measure C and other fundings.
How about funding stability, how about funding stability?
Yeah.
And then take opponents out of there,
Yeah.
because it could be for anything. I mean, somebody could come in and say, we don't want to pay the override tax anymore, we want to put an initiative together, and they get whatever voters they want, and they
Because
can...
none of our funding is stable, really.
Right. The only thing that's, yeah, and the economy takes another dive. There goes the property tax value. I mean, that's always going to be a threat. And that threat ultimately affects the bottom line of this organization, so.
Okay.
You got funding stability, outside local, state, and federal policy changes and unfunded mandates, and I say you put in privatization.
Keep privatization in there?
Yep.
Okay, but we
After-
skip morale, and that's another one that...
I don't think it's a
I
threat.
haven't talked about, I'm just trying to put that one in
Okay.
there.
Interagency differences? Yeah.
So, yeah, so we got, what did we take care of? These were all threats, right? So not enough diversity of funding, I kind of added that one in there still. Changes in the economy, that kind of, the funding stability is all together. Annexation, detachments, and privatization, we're keeping that one. So then you got morale and interagency differences.
You know, unless we can, again, that's another one, unless we can identify. I think that we've talked about this every time.
I don't see morale as a threat. It's either a weakness or a strength. And I don't see it as either of those either, because it's a moving target, man. Today it could be a strength, and tomorrow it's a threat. I'd have to do a SWOT every 2 days to figure out what the,
Well, and
Water
the
is-
issue is then that as we progress, you would have to actually identify, the only thing that the board can do about morale is to ensure that there are policies and procedures in place that ensure that at least the majority of people are content with their job. But that's impossible. So I don't know how to really
I don't think morale's a threat. I
either.
don't
Yeah, I
think
don't
how's
think
a
so.
threat to the organization.
Interagency differences, I don't necessarily see as a threat.
What?
Interagency differences,
Me neither.
I don't see it as a threat. I think if we want to put something in relation to that, it would probably be something of relationships, interagency relationships, whether a threat being good or bad. But I really don't see that. I think the four we nailed: funding stability, outside local, state, federal policy changes, unfunded mandates, and privatization. That's a threat.
Yeah. I wouldn't even put the interagency one, because how do you,
Right. It's not even measurable.
No, only interagency difference is they're asking us to do something and pay for something and we don't want to do.
Right.
But yet we have no authority to say no.
but he addressed it
So
in the policies.
Yep.
Yeah,
Other agency policies, in other words, the mandates.
yeah.
All right,
So,
we're getting there.
All right, so that's it.
Going back to opportunities, is there some grant opportunities
oh yeah,
that we could put in there?
why don't we do that to state and federal grants? Local, state,
But
and
won't
federal
you,
grants?
but that's what you'll come back with. In other words, in the funding stability, won't you come back and put those in there?
Is that on there? Is that on the opportunities?
No, opportunities is lacking one,
So, yeah, so grants, you bet.
so I'll put local, it's just an opportunity, local,
Okay,
They're out there, you just have to,
Oh, there's
you just have to apply for them.
state, and
Oh, there's private grants and
federal.
from NGOs and all kinds.
All right. Okay, that takes us through the SWOT. The next is establishing goals and objectives, and we'll go ahead and take a break. We got food for you guys to have something to eat. Take a few minutes, give me a chance
How many
to,
is a few? Huh? How many is a few? How long do you think the break's gonna be?
I don't know. I gotta go to the bathroom,
I
so.
have like a 20-minute run that I'll make, but if
Oh, you
that's
got-
too
you
long.
got-
Go make a run.
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
All right,
Take
Hey,
the
you
car,
know
you
what?
might get tired, it's hot.
take 25? All right. Okay, 25-minute walk instead of a 20-minute run.
Take the car, it's hot.
I gotta go.
Get tired.
well, that's right.
I'm already late.
Well, thank you for your contributions.
I think the more we do this, the better we're gonna get at it.
Yeah, we're getting clearer, too. I almost feel like apologizing to the chief for being so unclear in the path. Growth. Go out and grow.
This is a learning opportunity.
Any grants for like UTV?
Yeah, see, that's where my mind was. That first straight, too.
We tried, we tried. So, I have a question. I hopped on ECAS. Okay. And it's a subscription. How to have a password and login.
You have to be decent.
I called and tried to get some. I can get have access to it, but it only shows me. Let's say it won't show me VRAC. It won't show me. You need those others.
They'll show you what's transferred to you.
And that's what we transfer and then what I guess that we have. But that's it.
So they give you access to that?
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Or do they have to reach out?
Mark Dewar, Larry Smith, Dewar, Smith, and Aubrey. And Mark was like, hang on a minute, you want mine? Gonna save you a lot of hassle. My apologies, you had to jump through all these hoops.
Are they all the same, or what?
You start talking up there.
But I'll tell you,
Are they all the same?
Yes. So for this,
it did enlighten me though. Really.
Oh, yeah.
I think the next thing is, and I was talking with Ann about the new messages and stuff. Definitely see the message. We need to start looking at the standard. So we have NFPA standards that way. Right? What about?
I've always, it's sweet. I like when it's like, eat with your fingers, yell and scream.
There's something every day and not there's a policy.
Correct, you're right. And just generically says.
I gotta go.
be careful.
And when I worked, the clock within the 3 computers is right to work together. Well, at least for right now, in the buildings, you got to.
So I'm working, that's the reason that tomorrow on Sundays as another, I think that's what we need.
That's cool.
Why wouldn't, you know, I mean, put all the big room aside, why wouldn't somebody want to be, you know, wow.
She has it all.
That's
Your
good.
life is good.
Did your life easier?
On the way back.
Be able to go to the state report, and it makes sense.
And I've always showed you
You know what we never made, and all the times we did that, we never made the meeting all times. I mean, that was one day. So I wanted to wait. I want to go with them.
But it'd be more clear, well, look at the calls, transfer to you guys from 27. And see how many that looks like.
3 minutes, 5
Took me
minutes.
forever just to get the difference.
Or how long it's taking for them to transfer?
My
Or
son
what
went
you see?
to Arizona.
Well,
They haven't gone.
honestly, I just got access to that.
The other day I showed this to the summer.
But
One of the wonders of the world, my God, you're gonna be my age and say, I didn't see at least one wonder of the world.
Mark for these discrepancies with you.
I've seen a lot of.
That's what I wish was so. Hey, why does this show where their time on this?
And I was always so.
This cat,
All my own.
right
So if I
here,
got directed.
stamped it on this day. Why does theirs show something?
I grew up thinking about.
I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? That's your job.
The last time we can share the bill.
There will be a time when you'll be able to say,
Oh,
But if you're retiring,
I mean,
what's the chances when you're retiring?
all your.
well, I'm smart, my husband's interesting because,
Here's,
I mean, he's not afraid of anything but one thing, being locked up. I mean, he was an industrial painter, he would hang off of buildings, you know, no fear at anything.
the whole.
But he can't be so flying, especially after 9/11, it's not easy. So what I did was, while I was still working, and I made sure that I did all of the trips on the East Coast. Because he'd always say, well, when we retire, I go, yeah, when we retire, you're only gonna wanna go to places we can drive. My son either, he had to go to,
Yeah, I'm talking about that. But if we want to go through the center of public safety, that's right. We don't want to. I've talked to those agencies, I've talked to agencies.
my son, the first time, he never was scared to fly. Actually, he used to go to Puerto Rico and visit grandma every summer.
And those
When
that
he
are
was
still,
younger. But after
you know,
9/11,
and call it quits.
kids, it
And
changed.
those that are
It was
still.
like, what is on this?
And I'll give you an example.
But you know, my grandmother would never go visit any relatives because she was scared of flying. And I remember this is 45 years ago. there was this plane that crashed on top of the house, and there was a little lady sitting in a rocking chair and it killed her, and we were so, well, see, you're gonna die of a plane that's gonna land on you.
He's gonna show you. You're safe, you do that. You're gonna have to. That works.
The best Disney I've ever
A lot of
tried.
agencies, they don't understand.
My husband and I
They
had,
think it's just a
as much fun as we had with them, that trip was unbelievable.
And so that,
I was, last year I went to the,
Oh, wow.
there's no hour out.
how do you create has created a vision for us as well. I mean,
It's, see, I go, I'm from my sister
we
lives
have
in,
to do a minimum.
Valencia, Spain, so I have to, travel in long trips, and, it's not
And
fun.
that's,
You know, just load up on the
I've used the public.
$3 for this training, trips to Dubai.
Oh, my God.
Next time that pops up, I'll take it. I do want to see that.
Oh.
The pictures are so amazing, I want to see it.
I have, a nephew, the son of a cousin, what we call a nephew, military was stationed there, and he's got a really great personality, so he's doing those live videos all the time. So it's almost like he took us across the body, and it looks amazing to go through things.
My buddy went there, the trip I was just doing, he was traveling. He actually sat next to the car.
Those Italian
Gold chair. Just the reason. Yeah, it was a drink, it was not. It was like a thing, it was a. But then, that was like the second day we was there, so. We didn't have any one, just one of the government. He says, we're sorry, we have to dedicate to this. All of what we have planned for you is, we'll make up for it next time. So he said a lot of that.
Yeah, that's gonna be one of those countries like that.
At least it's like, someone say, you know, if 9/11 happened, they had to take care of it. Now, when they start, why did they never vote? We never left the resort.
Well, that's, and this is the second one. Well, I have 26 cousins. There's a lot of kids. But him and another nephew, or whatever you call it, in the military, traveled a lot, and the other one's retired now, so we finally realized we had, I remember, especially this one, all the trips, he's been to Russia, he said he does everything by the station, but, after the other one retired, we realized we were in special forces, because I remember, when last time we went to Puerto Rico, Louis went because my mother was dying, she wanted to see his kids and more. We kept thinking, boy, you know, Henry's gonna be 3 days on drugs, and somebody's this great power, he's always got money, he never would. And then when he retired, we see the same happen, but the boy is getting his travel, you know, it is on those times when
Now he's with the private security company. The one time he was doing the outside, he was not with private security. During the election, he was the building first, and then he graduated out of There's a phone call, you know, that was on the line where I was on. Chances of calling and say, and like, we took the horses down, resort.
Didn't have a storage house.
It's with farm.
So you could blow a couple more caps off, but I wouldn't get too attached.
We don't get snapped.
You're gonna
I'm
need
from the Caribbean, yeah.
I was like, you see this?
somebody else to have. But, so we can leave.
There was two things that, because I think there was two things that we spent fun on, especially when we would go, because we would go to all of the islands or whatever, it's sort of cheap and expensive, right there in the area. It's just the low rate.
Vinegar and oil and. When they said, what do you want on it, what'd you tell them? Okay. Yeah, except for jalapenos. That's all right though. I can eat. I know. That's not your fault. That's all right. I was in the other room. They shouldn't have started without me. It's not your fault. Don't worry about it. Not that big a deal.
But she's along the line. And when we go places, I tell her, don't speak, let me do one time we were walking down the street, and I knew we were being followed, but it is the country person, in front too. And she was like in La La Land or whatever. Oh, what is this? It could be that, or it could be they're gonna try to hurt her or something. So I saw some cans on the floor, and I just hit them really hard, and they made a loud noise. And she's like, what? And then they ran. I go, I got a feeling it's something that you just, it's built in you that you know what they're saying. It's just something not right. And I want to know, it's probably the person, we both have those, any person. She goes, but I have this person. Well, they'll just cut them off, and they might take their arm and cross it.
What are some of the
Even my last year, first time we went and Puerto Rico's pretty safe. If you're in the capital, or if you're in San Juan or whatever, as you go more into the mountains, whatever, it's not a good idea to do it alone. Anyway, he decided to go for a walk, and we were in a gated community, but he decided to go outside. But we didn't know that. We're just visiting the front yard and everything else, and all of a sudden, we see a patrol car bring him home. And he's laughing away, and I go, what did you do? He says, I didn't do anything. They saw me once.
I know we got this figure, 6 months ago.
I go, you're on your redhead with freckles or blue eyes. You just don't, gringos have money, your money to them.
Because our guns are up in shape, so it's not looking right now.
Which is a
Yeah. Most of the exceptions.
left for this is about 18. Then it just changed, right? I didn't find out until years later when he told me.
They have,
Says he would get on a plane by himself from the time he
older
was
version.
11, and then be back 2 months later. But
I'm curious to talk to firemen too, because they have more
you can
water.
drink before you're 18, you can stay out all night, you can, and it's true, I mean, we used to have rum and coke in our high school dances, you know, there is no limit, or no age restriction. But no wonder, I mean, I couldn't figure it out, it says, you want to go to summer again?
That's not fun. No, you know.
I didn't realize how hungry I was, Lord. So Jeremy, were you working today, or?
I was working, I was multitasking.
Oh, wow.
We're building, my wife's uncle is building a deck for a back house.
Oh, wow.
He's pouring the footers for it today. And his helper didn't show, so I became his helper.
Building a deck where? Where you building a deck?
In Nuremberg.
In,
Northumberland. So we have the two houses, we have the back house and the front house. In the back house, we ripped out that deck 2 years ago with the intention of rebuilding it. So we're just gonna get around.
Who's in the back house?
All right, mother-in-law, she moved in last year.
Well, Ronnie doesn't call me, which is good, he's basic.
So you watching Lewis's kids? Yeah.
No. The little one, but that's the,
Oh.
I feel bad. She's got this amazing imagination.
Wow.
And, you gotta watch what she watches because, she'll, invent this whole thing. And I mean, we know that it's her imagination, but Ronnie gets all freaked out. But she found this big ring and she took it and she goes, Papa, this is my engagement ring. He looks at her and goes, oh, no, you're 4 years old, what do you mean you're engaged? Yes, I have a boyfriend, his name is Giovanni. Well, Giovanni doesn't exist, he's not even a kid at school, it's his, but then she's also married to San Antonio who lives in San Francisco. So she's telling him all of this story, and you can see Ronnie freaked out. I go, that's okay, she's probably gonna be a writer or something. Curly Sue?
Very much about little girl with lilies. Oh, you're so cute.
So when I get home, he's gonna be freaked out.
You're gonna learn a whole new story, huh?
I'm serious. You don't need to.
How we
Are you watching something?
So, if you have your own, you can do a subscription.
Have you ever seen that movie, Curly Sue? Oh, yeah.
That's the one that they have there. Number one count list for the day, and how they're answering.
Debbie? Yes, ma'am? Do you guys want us to fill these anywhere in particular?
Right there, the trash can.
Well. Yeah, well, I think it's 10 seconds for us. He said, this particular, which he's on duty, sounds great, but, 4 hours away, so that's good, huh?
I think he works with, like the forestry or
283 that day. Oh, we have a good day with a short day.
he's still got.
Yesterday, we did 90. No way. So essentially that whole report, every day. I don't think we've ever had a topic that he and you just use the report to open the bill. This one's a standard. So you can build your own rule that whatever is not going to be. Do you have to? You've always changed, you can change the email address on his account.
That's dirty.
Change his password. Okay. My email address on the account.
I will never, I don't think I will never forget. One of the, when you started going, they started. And, which was.
Because these guys
There was
were-
one thing that they said.
They were on the hour and one.
Number one, I never really had that much interaction with the lifestyle. But, I never,
So-
ever forget
The problem is that if you limit how many you're gonna get each agency, then you're less, you're gonna stretch. You need to cut somebody else. You can't because you share. So it's better to allow everyone to relax this.
he's talking to
Taking them to take it away. Because then, if something goes so I give you this one.
Draw a report about 3 or 4 times, and then we went on and sitting there, and we started. And I'm the one who's doing the rest of it, which we, my staff, need.
That's good.
And then I found out that our maintenance.
It's like Elsa.
And I was like, and I think what it is.
Pretty short.
Right to this process, so I don't know.
Go through and check the last 7 months and see exactly how you see, how you change. I can see how many times you try. I can see how many times. And so I'll tell them, don't change.
This is the.
We used to have a center, it was on the corner of Wilson Way
I don't
and
know, do this.
Hazelton. You know, it was that old Victorian house that they tore down. You know, well, we had a center there, but we leased the center to Rutherford. So we, when I was executive director of the county, came to me and they said, you really need to shut
The other thing I used to do, fire houses.
There were sections of our building that it was there used to be the LSC so they only refurbished certain parts, but there were some cells
How do you guys like it?
left. When we were leaving, we had everything opened up so we could go in and see if there was anything in ours. So there was
As far
not
as
building to the side of the cells, but they
blowing up
actually got
reverse.
the bars. They didn't want to
It can get confusing. Because like, I finally got everybody on for an EMS call. Is a medical non-vehicle accident. Because there's so many there. There's so much you have to go in there.
I wish we would have made it a supervisor.
When you go to
Because he
detail,
knew a lot of things he
what you
wanted.
did. Patient assessments. That's it. It doesn't like.
Are you guys gonna use that? What's that?
It'll probably end up, it'll get pushed to the point that. You doing it? Didn't do it? No, we're on a timeline. Someone will get it. Right here. Because there are shit. And here's the answer. Okay, let's rewind this conversation. Now, you're the guy that. Oh, well, no. Think of it as yourself. Don't always use that as the easy escape of these.
So much easier, so much easier. Don't get mad at people. I mean, you lose some of those guys. I'm just mad, not one time. Just mad.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I wish I could figure it out some other way. Saturday and Sunday. I got it planned to take basically and do it. That is.
Okay, we're ready. Oh, Lord, I'm stuck. It was that way.
Yeah.
We didn't do
We
it.
didn't do it.
Mike Fahey said to say hello to you.
Yeah, they
Oh,
even
yeah.
have tape on it.
You know what, I'm gonna call him. I am. Except I'm leaving town on Wednesday, I don't know when.
He said he misses you.
Okay. You must have,
Okay.
you must have gotten a haircut, huh?
So we're back. No, he had to go to his other job or whatever. Yeah,
He headed for the hills.
yeah. He left at 6 to be somewhere that took him 4 hours to get there, and he had to be there at 6. So
Yeah.
we're still trying to figure that one out.
You're trying to figure Bob out, don't do it.
Well, if it's in Hawaii, he still has time.
Ah,
True.
okay, so we're ready to go. We are now at goal statements and strategies. But I thought this is where you put the stuff in there and then you come back to us.
We do the goal together, and then I put...
Okay, oh, got it, yeah, that's right,
We put the goals together, and then I put the objectives, how to get there.
okay.
So, since we're going with two documents here, let's make sure these are all the same, and they're not. So,
It's gonna be that easy?
yeah. So on the screen, we have increased opportunities to reach out to public through outreach programs, maintain, cultivate, hone efforts for innovative training, succession planning, and professional development, find opportunities to promote, cultivate ways to maintain and retain a highly skilled efficiency workforce, and continue to identify, plan, and coordinate infrastructure components, and yep, that's it. Let me go back. And on the paper, on the sheet we have in front of you, increase opportunities to collaborate with the public through outreach programs.
First four are the same.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, and then there's a fifth one on the paper that's different.
Oh, look at that, they are the same.
Yeah.
That's what threw me off. Continue to develop, and I don't think it goes down, yeah, no.
Except the number 3, it says innovative workforce, and on the board it said some other kind of workforce.
Okay.
It said efficient workforce. But other than that, they're the same. The first four are the same.
Okay, well, at least we're there. So these are the goals and statements, goal statements and strategies, and then obviously on the paper I have put objectives in there. And that's what I'll come back and do, is put objectives of like 3 to 4 objectives of how we'll be able to obtain that goal, whether they're measurable. So, for instance, on the first one, we got increased opportunities to collaborate with the public through outreach programs, and then by establishing an annual open house at each of the community state fire stations, and that was a suggestion from the board, provide opportunities for the community to assist with basic emergency response, that was leading towards the CERT program, and continue to participate in annual community events and programs that guide our youth in making decisions, that was E15, and we have expanded on that, obviously, by the BTEC. So, were they measurable? Yeah, they are, whether we achieved them or not, and then we did. And that was the goal for me to explain to you, so we were able to do the open houses, and we continue today to have those open houses at the fire stations in the summer months. We did do another CERT program, which if we're looking at whether we accomplished it or not this year, we did do another CERT program, and we're also doing the junior academy with the police services, fire and police junior academy combined. Participated in E15. Participate with the youth programs with the high school, with BTEC, to answer number 3. So the second one was maintain, cultivate, and hone efforts for innovative training, succession planning, and professional development. So provide opportunities for staff and fire board to acquire new techniques for innovative training. And so we have done that through CSDA, other opportunities for the board, and myself have attended other CSDA and conferences, was it EMAC or ESMAC or MSAC, thank you, MSAC. We just got back from expanding, recruit to mentor a more diverse pool of candidates in achievement of their career. And I've done that, I've delegated that out, we've gotten some. We have a more diverse, we had our first female firefighter, unfortunately it didn't work out. and we have expanded out to do a more diverse. I think we can be better at that. As much as I can say we accomplished it, I don't think we've completed it, and I think that's something we need to work on more. Seek third-party instruction to enhance knowledge and governance compliance. And so we've reached out, our auditors has participated in that, and I think that this more so as we sought out that consultant to come in and do some look at our financial model and whatnot. We did that. Find opportunities, 3 is find opportunities to promote, cultivate ways to maintain.
Did you have something?
I did, but I can wait until
Oh,
it
okay.
finishes if you want.
Go ahead, no, I can stop. Just stop me.
I'm gonna go back to 2.
2-2?
Yeah, the
Okay.
expand recruiting to mentor a diverse, that one. So, can you just elaborate on what specifically we did to try to meet that?
So,
Steps we
I think when we had Career Day, we expanded out there. We've gotten a more diverse group to apply. We have an African-American reserve. We've had a couple of them. Some of the Hispanic have Hispanic population, or I shouldn't say it that way. I'm probably inappropriately saying it. Have come to us, but I think we've done some, but we haven't done enough. And I think that falls back to the career days that I was talking about earlier. We need to get out there and we need to help get a more diverse population to come and apply for our organization. I don't know how to do it. I mean,
That was going to be my question.
I try to do it. I mean, I know a ton of people and I try to get, their kids and get them enrolled, but there's so many opportunities for them to do other things. They just don't want to do it, I mean, I'm good friends with the Cottons and
I know, but your reserves have always been diverse.
Yeah.
Very diverse. How many positions do we get open a year?
So reserve-wise, we probably get maybe 5, 6 in a year. Sometimes none, but we just hired, I think, 10. Because we hired some and some left for other organizations.
Yeah. No, but I'm talking about regular jobs. In other words, because we're talking about a more diverse workforce, doesn't necessarily mean the
reserves.
reserves.
So,
But that would mean that we would have to have a plan for them to come into the,
But even the reserves, the reserves don't have a high degree of diversity either.
Yeah.
You said they've been diverse, but there's been, 2 women and?
yeah, well, I know, I don't even know how to calculate it. Our organization's so, small.
I get that.
yeah. But we did get the women.
So we had the one
Didn't work
work.
out, or they
One.
went,
Yeah.
one?
Well, we had one, and we had one as a reserve, and she left to Texas, and
Yeah.
and so she was pretty strong. She was a strong, and I don't mean that in the strength-wise, and I mean as a strong personality, strong person. She could have easily been in the fire service.
I think it's just a whole, it's hard to get them.
We got to do it, though. We got to make an effort. That's all there is to it, and then we're not doing a good job at it. That's just something we got to work on.
I don't understand how, if we're supposed to be equal opportunity employer, how do you treat them differently than anybody else? I mean, how do you recruit differently for one sex over another?
Well, I think it's as much a question of where you recruit as how you recruit, If you want, for example, women, then you have to go to where women are. Or if you want different minorities, you have to go to where they are, to the schools, to the gyms, to the wherever your targets hang out. I'm not saying that you treat them differently once you get them.
Right, or through the process. It's
But,
just
yeah.
getting them to apply and getting them
Exactly.
to want to expand in this career.
Right.
It really is. That's the gap, right? Because once they do it,
About targeting the folks that actually have established programs in the county. Like, for example, Bobby Bivens, who's the president of the I can never say it.
NAACP?
NWACP. They have an amazing youth, I always forget it, how to say it, I'm sorry.
That's why it's two A's, not a double.
Exactly.
Double A.
NWA is a whole different thing.
I'm Hispanic, so I can tell you the Hispanic ones. No, what I'm saying is, they have the most amazing youth program. I mean, they're putting out people that, McNerney's head of staff there, started there. I mean, a lot of people are going to government, a lot of people, these are youth that are just, but this is just one example. Unfortunately, I don't know that there is a Hispanic group or a women's group. That's the only one I know, but where they actually have established groups for youth. And I know that one is just unbelievable.
And so, I mean, if we're gonna be hiring, we got a new station coming up, I mean, we're gonna have to staff it eventually, whether we get the staffing from Safer Grant, or we get it down the road through funding, through, tax revenue. We're gonna have to look at that and expand. Full-time positions are different than reserve positions, and
Well,
reserve, you gotta have local, you can't go outside, I mean, they gotta live within somewhat of the community. Stockton, we can go there, we can go outside a little bit. Yeah, that's something we gotta work on. I think it's something we need to keep in as a goal, and so, as we go through here, it may be, if we use that goal again, and which it fits into some of the stuff we put in with our weaknesses and opportunities through the SWAT, is to maintain, cultivate, and hone efforts for innovative training, succession planning, and professional development. I mean, that one I don't think changes. Opportunities to promote, cultivate ways to maintain and retain a highly skilled, innovative workforce. We may be able to look at changing that one. Continue to identify, plan, and coordinate infrastructure components. That's kind of in line with what you were talking about for the infrastructure, and continue to develop and implement policies and procedures to enhance communication and better work relations. That's something that we've talked about removing. So where do you guys want to start with? The first one is increase opportunities to collaborate with public through outreach programs.
well, did we have any left? Okay, hold on, we gotta go back now to, I think that's where it gets a little bit more difficult, because we actually don't have the new, didn't we add the college piece? I see this more as, the goals need to fit what we've already gone through.
Can you display your notes?
Yeah, the goals should address the weaknesses.
Yes,
So the weaknesses are lack of racial and gender diversity, lack of institutional knowledge, volunteer retention, and succession planning. So we had in there increase opportunities, so just starting with the first one, increase opportunities to collaborate with the public through outreach programs. We can put that, just so because it does go into the budget also, like you talked about earlier. Instead of increase opportunities, we can continue to provide opportunities,
yeah, I like that.
okay?
And now,
It's not a weakness, but it's something that we still want to maintain. It's a goal we still want to achieve. And then we need to address the ones that are weaknesses, right? And then the second one is maintain, cultivate, and hone efforts for innovative training, succession planning, and professional development. In the weaknesses, we have, so we can maintain, cultivate, and hone efforts for, we don't have training in as a weakness, but we have succession planning. And instead of professional development, do we want to put in a retention and we need something for an opportunity for racial diversity.
I think that's in a category either with number one or by itself.
Yeah, because I figure that'd be with your outreach program, to outreach, to try to find those people to come in.
Yeah, you can add to that, increase opportunities to collaborate with the public through, with the public or other agencies through outreach programs to
seek out.
meet goals. In other words, that one is still to meet the goals within what we've,
But
How about-
these are last year's goals we're looking at. We
Yeah, I
don't-
know,
we don't
that's-
have- We don't have to.
we don't have to.
You don't
do the
have to.
same, yeah.
No, we don't have to keep these same goals.
No, we can go anywhere you want. I'm just kind of trying to throw ideas out there.
Okay, right, no, I get that.
But I mean, the goals have to address the things that we've already identified, and opportunity is another one, because opportunities will become a goal. So
So that's why I was thinking, this is just me thinking, maintain, cultivate, and hone efforts for succession planning and get rid of development, and get rid of professional development, and seek out a more diversified workforce.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds good. If you can repeat it again?
Maintain, cultivate, and hone efforts for succession planning and seek out a more diversified workforce. And so what I mean by that is then I would have to put in objectives how I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I just think those sound like two different things to me. I mean, I don't know.
Well, they
why
are.
I don't know why we want to lump them together.
Separate
Okay.
them, yeah.
Okay, so
We
that-
have them listed in weaknesses separately. And so I think each
I'm
weakness
good.
should have each weakness, and I think each opportunity should have a goal.
Okay, that's a lot of goals. We normally only use 4 or 5 goals, but
Well, that would be 8.
that's why we try to
Well,
combine them,
technically,
yeah.
that goal was 2 goals, Gene, so whether you
That's why
write
I'm
them
saying we
separate
normally
or-
try to combine them, and then we get opportunities for them. But I'm okay with whatever you want to do. I'm not, so let's do that then. Let me write them down, though.
Or you could even do it, find opportunities to promote, make it its own goal for the
So let me make sure we're
diverse.
still okay with the first one. Continue to provide opportunities, continue to collaborate, right?
I'm lost.
So the first one we agreed was continue to provide opportunities to collaborate with the public through outreach programs. Are we still good with that one?
Well, is
Okay,
that
yeah.
tied to a weakness? Is that tied to anything? Or is that
Okay,
just something
fair
that pulls
enough.
up?
Yeah, that's,
Okay. All right, so let's start with 1. Lack of racial and gender diversity. What do you want to put?
So
you could do it and find opportunities to promote a more diversified workforce, something like that. Because if you put yourself find it and you can't find it, you failed. However, if you finding opportunities to promote, the thing is to get the word out.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But if it was a goal in the past, then we're continuing that opportunity.
No, what I'm doing is I'm using those words for a new one, yeah. In other words, find opportunities to promote a diversified workforce.
But that's been a goal in the past as well, correct?
No,
Was
that
it?
was a highly skilled, innovative workforce.
Well, these are the goals. And then under the goals, there were strategies. So that was a strategy, I think, in the past, but it wasn't spelled out as a
actual
goal.
goal.
Yeah, it wasn't spelled out as a goal.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Make it
That's-
an
that's
actual
right,
goal
yeah.
now.
Okay.
So what you're doing is you're trying to find opportunities to do it. It's
Well, remember,
almost,
I got to come back with objectives, how I'm going to do that, right?
okay, yeah.
So that, I'm gonna put 3 objectives to each goal that you have.
Very good.
So right now, the first goal is find opportunities to promote, and I put retain a diversified workforce.
Very
Promote
good.
and retain?
Yeah. But is promote the word we want to do?
The only thing you can really do, Gene, is promote. They have to come to you.
Okay.
So you have to find ways to get the word out for them to come. Now, when you talk about retain, it's also the hiring as well as the retention. See, the problem is this, and I'm trying to be very careful how I address this. When you are, and I'm only talking from a point of view that is my I have to be careful because this is public. My concentration in college is ethnic and cultural studies, so I have some background on this. When you are promoting for differences of cultures, ethnicities, and whatever, there are some barriers. And in the employment process, most of them fail because of the barriers. So when you are trying to promote, you're getting them to you. To hire them, sometimes you have to have policies in place and procedures in place for that. And I don't want to, so if they come, I mean, we did it, it's no different than we did. We had to do a lot of things to be able to bring females in. So when you say we'll promote to get them, we're also going to work towards, when possible, working on any barriers that would impede them from becoming employed. Had we not done all of the changes we did for the female population, we wouldn't have been able to hire the one. So we have to be committed in terms of budget and everything else also to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I like the word promote either, but I can live with it.
No, you can change it. You can change
I
it.
don't know what else I would change it to. Maybe build. We're trying to build a workforce, right? Not promote it. We're trying to build a diverse workforce.
Build sounds good.
Whatever you guys want, I'm good with that.
Find
You guys good with that?
opportunities to promote a more diverse but then he'll come back and he'll say by building this or by doing this. But the thing is, I mean, we can stand in the middle of Delta College and talk to everybody of a diverse population and try to convince them to come here. And the only thing that's going to make them come here is that they really want to do it. That's why I'm looking at it, and we talked about it at the beginning, is we have to show them what's in it for you. Why would you rather be a firefighter instead of a culinary expert? Well, you know why they want to be culinary? Because that's the best grants to be able to get into Delta College, to go through that, and they guarantee you a job at the end. So our youth is very smart. I can tell you right now that I read the most devastating Facebook post just by pure accident, because it was a response to somebody that I know. And it is a young man who I don't know who he is or whatever, but he is completely and totally heartbroken because he comes from a family that is poor and who maybe didn't have all the ability to give them. Yet he would rather, there is nothing in the world that he would rather do more than be a firefighter with Lathrop Manteca. But guess what? When he was very young, he's got a record. So those are the things that I'm talking about. And it broke my heart, you know. But then I can't change those things or anything else. But we also have to, I don't know, I'm just talking now.
No, you
Yeah,
that shouldn't, just because someone has a record It shouldn't stop anybody from trying to seek out.
But that's what they
Fire
believe.
service.
And I can't get involved because I'm on the board.
Yeah.
But that's what they believe. So in other words, it is for us to, that's what the Bobby Vivens and the Luana Vivens of the world do. They go out there and they talk to the kids and they tell them, what do you want to do? We're going to help you. We're going to get the people here. We're going to, so that there is, so they believe that they can do it.
Okay. I get it.
So it's more than just telling everybody, you know.
Yeah.
Especially in Lathrop, I mean, you know, there's just so many cotton kids.
I know, right? Okay, so next one, what do you guys want to do for a second?
What's the second weakness?
Lack of institutional knowledge.
That one's, I mean, some people may say that's good. It's a new regime.
So the goal is to increase your knowledge?
No, that's in itself, one. What happened to the secession one?
That's at the bottom.
Okay.
You have 4 weaknesses and 4 opportunities.
So would you, again, I know we've discussed it, but again, explain what you mean by that,
Which one?
what the weakness is, the institutional knowledge. Why is it a weakness?
Because you miss that, when people leave, they take away that institutional knowledge. Right? Institutional knowledge of how to do an entity report, how to make sure that you're capturing all the tax dollars, how to do a budget, how to do our budget, how to respond, in Engine 31 when it dies.
So,
I'm being simplistic here, but
I get it. My question would be, is that institutional knowledge or is that training?
well, that's how you fill the gap, right?
Be knowledge, because
So you provide a leadership role through a training opportunity, and I'm not trying to say these anymore.
I know.
But that's how you fill the gap, right? I mean, so what you're saying is right, we just have to put it as a goal. So how do we do it? It's a weakness that we have a lack of institutional knowledge because you have a gap between 20-year-olds, 15 years, and now we have another gap between that and, you know what I mean, and another group that just came in. So how do we fill those gaps of institutional knowledge when they leave?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying, and I don't want to belabor the point, but to me, the fact that nobody else knows how to do a budget is not institutional knowledge. You know, that speaks to another problem.
Okay.
You know, because, I mean, you don't have to have, people who have institutional knowledge may not know how to do a budget.
I could tell you, somebody can come up and do a budget, and if they don't know what the tax revenue is or how we get our taxes, how are they gonna do the budget?
I agree with you, but I'm saying I wouldn't say that that's a lack of institutional knowledge. That's just a lack of training or education. But, you know, I don't want to, I don't want to semantics this to death. So I'm fine with this.
Well, give me an example of what you think is institutional knowledge then. Because maybe
The history of the organization would be institutional knowledge, you know,
Okay.
where the fire stations used to be, where the companies used to be, whatever, who the chiefs used to be. I mean, that's institutional knowledge.
institutional knowledge? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that not knowing that is necessarily a weakness for the organization. You know, I don't know that I would not define what you're describing as institutional knowledge, is what I'm saying. I think that's something totally different. The ability to do a budget and to know about
But that's a very broad, I mean, I'm sorry that you focused on that one little statement. That was a very broad
No, I
statement.
get that, well, yeah.
Right, I'm sorry you're focused on the budget.
Yeah.
It could be anything. It could be how to respond to Lynch Road. How do you respond and turn the alarm off on when it's sounding at the UP tracks?
And again, I mean, I get that. to me, that wouldn't be institutional knowledge. That would be training. That would be a lack of training. You know, but, you know,
I don't know, maybe we should take it off. I don't know what to say. That's what I'm trying to say is, I mean, that's the point I'm trying to say, is that if you don't have older guys teaching the younger guys about how this organization runs and how these little nuances are at a certain company or a certain emergency hazard that we have, or how the river flows and how this is where people end up drowning, and how, if we don't have people telling people that, that's a lack of institutional knowledge, because somebody comes in and they don't know, so now they're starting from scratch.
Okay.
Right? That's what I'm trying to say.
All
If they don't know that, you know, you don't get, when you do a budget, it's a pretty good guess of what you're getting until October, because that's when the real numbers come out. How are they gonna know how that even functions? Because each agency is different, and I'm going back to the budget because I know that's one that you stuck on. If you don't know how this funding happens and how we get our funding and where it came from and how the ordinance was passed in order for it to get there, you have a lack of institutional knowledge. Right?
I see that.
I agree with Chief.
Right? Because there's an override tax. So how did we get that override tax? Because I can tell you, the reason why I say that is because when I took this place over, I had no idea. You know how many papers I had? Where are those documents? I mean, that sounds simple. You would think, right? Until you want to find them.
right.
I know where they're at now because I put them in the filing cabinets, but I'm just saying, nobody knew that. How did we even get it passed? And when was the last time it was passed? You know what I mean? When you go back and you do that, that's a pass on in institutional knowledge that you have to pass on to the next guy coming in, or you have to make sure that more than one person knows, so that when something happens to the other guy can pick up the baton and start running. And he doesn't have to figure it out. And I maybe that's a stitch in my crawl, or crawl in my stitch, or whatever the saying is, right? That stuck with me, but it was very hard.
Let me,
Okay, no, I'm good. I mean,
let me ask you a
Definition of
question, because I
institutional
think that I'm finally realizing, I thought it was something else too, I'll be honest with you. Then maybe the board needs to word it differently, because you're going to put in the pieces of how we get there. However, the real institutional knowledge is the history, not the process of doing things. So if it's a word of mouth thing, the people that know it are the ones that give that clarity. Maybe that's dangerous in itself. But I don't want to get into the how we resolve the goals, because that's your job. But maybe something in terms of in other words, all we can ask you is to identify the process to preserve institutional knowledge. That's all the board can ask you. What are you going to do to ensure that
That's the goal.
Yeah.
I think we're getting lost here. That was a weakness.
Okay.
However you want to phrase the goal, you can phrase the goal however you want.
All righty, got it.
What do you define what the weakness was? I'm defining the weakness.
So what she just said was the perfect,
Okay,
it
so
was perfect for the goal.
What did I say?
I agree.
I did that too. I identify the process.
Hold on, I gotta lock in. Keep that thought.
Remember your password?
Yeah, no kidding. I have to change it so many times. Okay, identify the process.
To preserve institutional knowledge.
Perfect, yes.
Whether you do it by training people or writing a book, or you need help from us with a consultant, then you decide that.
Yeah, I mean, we can implement programs for individuals to pass on it. I'm gonna give you an example while I'm spell checking this thing. And this is gonna be a silly one, but it was gonna be an expensive one too. So engine 31 has a wiring harness that stretches from the engine all the way to the back, and it has more sensors on it than you would imagine. Everything, engines today have sensors on it. It has one fuse, that if that fuse goes out, the whole thing shuts down. The whole engine, it just stops. You can't get it out of pump. It's dead. It's one fuse. I remember that because it happened to me on a strike team for a Turlock engine that had the same thing, and I know there was one individual, it was Brandon Burlingame, who remembered because we had the same thing. That cost us $2,000 to diagnose and find. If he wouldn't have remembered, guess what the battalion had already ordered? A tow truck. Because you can't move that thing. The one in the Southern California had to be put on a lowboy, and then trucked all the way to the Pierce factory for them to change a fuse. And so that's simple, but yet could be expensive. And that's the kind of institutional knowledge we need, and that's just an example, that needs to be passed on so everybody understands that. And who documented? And that was my question. Why hasn't anybody put that, because I'm the one that brought it up, and then they found Burlingame, and he goes, oh yeah, that's right, the fuse. Doesn't everybody know that with that engine? Simple and very granular what we want to talk about, but it's an example. So, identify the process to preserve institutional knowledge. Okay, I like it. All right. Volunteer retention.
That will probably, don't we have, okay, can you tell us the first one? The one that had to do with the diverse and et cetera, et cetera? Because in my world, diverse includes everybody, even the majority races.
Find opportunities to build and retain a diversified workforce.
Chief, instead of us looking at that, can we look at what you're typing?
Well, I can,
On two different deals.
I'm on two different computers.
But I think it would be helpful for us to see
Yeah,
what
so how
we've
about if
done
I
versus
do this?
seeing
Let me-
something that doesn't help us.
Let me do this. Yeah, while you're doing that,
Or you can list the weaknesses on that piece of paper behind you, or the weaknesses and the opportunities. I just feel like we're not taking advantage of
let me see.
stuff in front of us.
Technology.
Yeah, technology. A piece of
Blank piece of
paper.
A piece of paper.
Because it's not our knowledge,
I'll even
the
write it.
cities.
If you tell me what we already came up with.
Let me try to do something here. Give me just a second while you're thinking of that.
And while you're doing that, let me say, I agree with where I think the chair was going, that we can combine the first and the third, that we can talk about, as we talk about a diverse workforce, we can also talk about reserves also.
Because if we want to have a diverse workforce, one of our biggest pools to get them is to get the diversity in our reserves first.
Yes. That's the stepping stone.
Let me make sure.
By the way, the mayor of Stockton, Tubbs, he was one of the youth of this group. He was mentored by LaJuan and Bobby Bivens, and at the age of 23 was on the council. I think he's like, what, 24, 25, and he's the mayor? I mean, outstanding youth.
And they would know other youth organizations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they would
And that's
know.
why I'm saying, I don't know the Hispanic one, but maybe they
But
do.
I'm sure they.
Or, you know,
if they exist, they know them.
I know that the St. Anthony's Catholic Church has a young women's group, but I went to see the young women's group, and believe me, they're not that young. So that's the only group I know.
No, and I don't know if, for example, Stockton has a program by which they're trying to recruit, minorities and women But if they are, I'm sure there's some overflow. I mean,
Yeah, Stockton
could-
is very progressive in
yeah,
terms of that,
so
yes.
we could tap into
He's
theirs.
getting 5,000 applications
Into their
for
list.
one job.
Well, that hasn't,
Yeah, but I think some of those 5,000 would apply to Lathrop if they knew,
Yeah.
you know, that Lathrop was, even existed or
Okay.
was hiring.
Let's see if I can get this to edit.
See, I have to stop thinking in terms of Oakland.
All right, so, fortunately, so I have, here's the knowledge point piece. Identify the process, so I can pull up here and go, here's the weaknesses. Now I have to pull down the right, but here's the weaknesses. I can actually, let's do this. Let me get rid of this. Oh, is threats something we want to look at our goals? No, just opportunities and weaknesses, right?
Well, the goal for that would be eradicate all threats to the district. Simple as that.
there you go.
Because if I pull this up, it's gonna jack it up. If I go like this and do something
Make
like
those, two columns for just that section. And then you can close down your, toolbar to make more room.
that it.
Yeah.
Okay. There's the weakness in
Now,
that.
don't ask me how to bring your toolbar back, but
Just have to pull it up. Okay, we can start here. So here's the weakness and opportunities. So the next one was volunteer retention. So find opportunities to build and retain a diversified,
Workforce and reserve.
Oh, yeah, a volunteer and workforce, or workforce and reserve.
Or volunteer and paid workforce?
well, you could
Because
say,
the weakness number 3 says volunteers, not reserves.
Let me ask you a question, just to clarify that one. When we advertise for an open employee position, the process would just be to advertise, not necessarily to go all over the world and try to get people, correct? I mean, my understanding is, once there's a position that gets flagged as open in fire department, anybody who wants to be a firefighter will try to apply. So if that's the case, then I'm of the belief that it's through our volunteer force that we can try to secure, of course, we would have to give preference to a volunteer force then.
so when we put out a flyer and we send it out to all the agencies and to everywhere that I know of, we post it in the paper and when we hire full-time and volunteer.
That's what I mean, for you to be able to really.
We actually, volunteer is open all the time.
Yeah.
You can just drop in, come in and drop out. I see people at the gym, go fill out an application. Go fill out an application.
Yeah, but see, that's why originally, and I didn't explain it well, it's, if in the process of advertising for an open position just became open and you advertise, I don't see any room there to try to make it to where we get to the goal of a diversified workforce. Because at that point, you're not going to be going all over the place trying to make sure that diversity also applies. So you only have a few avenues there. Either it is actually in the process of hiring where something happens to ensure a diversified workforce, or you have a pool that is very diversified that can enter into the workforce.
Well, except but also, part of it is where you advertise, where you put your flyers.
Okay,
You know,
that
you can
that
put
makes sense.
Flyers in
Media
different
just
places
takes
to
That makes
attract
sense.
a different target
Yeah.
audience.
That makes sense. I didn't think about that.
So the thing about reserves, you can be at a high school career day and tell people to come in and fill out applications, because it's open all the time. It's constantly open. We take applications all the time, and then we go through them and screen them, And and typically, we haven't screened anybody because we have accepted all of the applications that normally apply. The full-time is gonna be a little bit more trickier because then we post that out and we only take applications when we're posting it. We don't take applications open like that. But I think that's just a matter of where we post it and make sure
Yeah.
that we get it in opportunities for a more, diverse minority group to actually look at it and want to apply, and maybe.
Yeah, that
go up
answers
there
my
and see.
question. But I like it that way. Find opportunities to build and retain a diversified volunteer and full-time workforce.
Okay.
Identify the process to preserve institutional knowledge.
Okay, now, I'm back on number one. Now that the
Okay.
horse is dead, I want to beat it a little bit more.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So is the word diversified clear enough? I mean, we don't have to specify that we're looking for gender and racial diversity. Does diverse,
I can put on there whatever you want. I understand that, but if
I
you
think
think it
it's
needs to be
clear.
more spelled, more defined, I will put it in there.
I think it's clear to the board.
Justified.
Because I think this is where we went wrong. To be honest with you, I think this is where we went wrong last time.
No, it has to be
I
diversified.
think I had diversified and I didn't have racial and gender, so I just want to.
Yeah, but do you know that when you do racial, you exclude Hispanics? Unless there are cultures, there are races, and there are genders, so it's three different things.
Whatever you guys want me to do.
Asians, Native Americans, yeah.
These are really yours. I'm just helping you do this.
okay, so you're gonna come up with goals anyway, right?
No, he's gonna come with the strategies
Strategies,
to meet
you're
the
gonna come up with
goals.
strategies, right, okay.
And I guess I can put it in there.
And then we'll also have a chance to change those too, right?
Right.
Of
well,
course.
We'll have a chance to change them. Just because I put them in there doesn't mean I'm not acknowledging what you guys are
Right,
saying.
no, I get it.
Okay.
So I'm
Well,
fine.
and,
Okay,
I mean, and I'll do it for you too, if you want me to, is that normally when something like this is being planned, percentages are drawn from San Joaquin County, because that would, he's right, diversified means that you will meet the percentages that are through the county. So what that would mean is, we know that the highest is going to be Hispanic, then it's going to be this, because then you have to start, so with that, I'm giving it back to him to beat the horse up, because if we do want to go the racial and the gender, those are the ones that seem to be the hardest ones to get. I mean, almost every reserve that I've seen here is Hispanic, or has been Hispanic.
well,
It
that's what we listed in the weakness.
Yeah.
We specify racial and
Then
gender
let's
in
do
the
it,
weakness.
let's do it his way, Gene.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that?
Okay.
Great. Yeah, I think the horse is dead.
So you can put a check mark next to voluntary retention, lack of racial and gender diversity. Those have been addressed.
Okay. We got one left, succession plan.
Don't you have that kind of in with your preserve institutional knowledge?
Yeah.
Sort of, kind of.
You guys are killing me, man. I started combining them, and now you guys are, nope, we're gonna do one for everyone. Now we're combining them again.
I was just, when you,
I'm so good with combining them. Trust me. So identify the
That's what-
process to preserve institutional knowledge
because basically that's
Wow.
what you're doing.
while training for a succession plan,
There you go. Well, actually,
while,
and also,
also,
because you want to go back to your engine
right.
deal.
No, I get, you're absolutely right. And also, train and define How's that?
Identify the process to preserve institutional knowledge and also train and define a succession.
Oh, no.
Unless you want to do it.
No, we don't have to do train. Also,
Define.
define. Oops.
Train would be the.
Yeah,
strategy.
those do go together, because
Define a succession plan.
you may knock out the institutional knowledge with a succession plan too.
Okay.
You guys are gonna kill me, but I think you need to split number one.
Split it
Yeah.
for volunteer and full-time?
No, find opportunities to build and retain, a more diversified racial and gender volunteer.
Let's work on number 3, and then we'll
Yeah,
decide if we
yeah.
have to go back to 1
Yeah.
or 2.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? Is the succession plan only for the chief?
No.
Could be
It's
for
for all-
battalions, could be for captains, could be for engineers.
So, and those do go hand in hand, because that institutional knowledge is lost when you don't have promotions within, or you don't promote individuals, or you lose people. So, that succession planning should be there it will help actually fill that gap if it's done properly, if it's defined.
Well, and if all layers are doing that succession plan themselves with their people, I think you might knock out the institutional knowledge as well.
Right. I just got to give you some objectives how I'm going to do it.
Okay, number 3.
So you've covered all of the weaknesses. So now you just need some.
The opportunities.
Building on existing infrastructure and recruitment.
I don't think we need to do a goal for that one, because the most important piece is the recruitment, and it's already included, and the infrastructure, I don't know. Don't you do that on your own?
Yeah, well, we do a capital improvement project, right? Plan that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, the CIP addresses that.
Okay. So then expand EMS service. And we can't put that in here. Just kidding.
Those last two can make a number 3, because what you're really doing there is the goal is to, again, identify any and all opportunities to expand what? Services, workforce.
Okay, so we can do something to make a third. I'm just going to give this to you, okay? I'm not going to give this, I'm just talking out loud here. So, seek out opportunities to expand services through joint powers agreements, grants, and interagency relationships.
Perfect. We should have had you do the goals too.
No. I just gotta remember what I just said, though. Bad spelling, so.
That's okay, that's what spell check's for.
Do joint power agreements.
Grants. I forget what you're.
Interagency.
Yeah.
How's that?
You did it.
You got a dam there that seek out opportunities to expand services through joint powers, agreements and grants. After services, you just have an extra and?
Huh?
Oh, and through JPA, Joey.
You just probably have to put a comma because it's a run-on sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, the extra "and" is after joint power agreements.
Yeah.
Take that "and" out.
I get crazy with my ands.
It's easy to do.
Seek out opportunities to expand services through JPA, Joint Powers Agreement, and I will,
You got another after services, another and.
Oh, yeah.
told you I get crazy. Through JPA, Joint Powers Agreements, grants, and interagency relations. Right?
Perfect.
Very good.
That covered all three of them. I just,
Let me
I
just-
combined them.
It all kind of works hand in
The only problem I
hand.
see, find opportunities to build a more diversified racial and gender volunteer and full-time workforce and retain. The problem that I'm seeing with that, when I read it, we're not retaining any of the old firefighters. In other words, this goal applies to the building of a more diversified racial and gender and retaining them. It's just, it is semantics, but, so if you put, we have to be clear that the retaining is for all, we want to retain all of our workforce, whether it's the one we have now,
Or diversified.
yeah, but we want to build a more diversified one.
But that's the goal.
Yes.
The goal is
Is to retain-
to get them and keep them.
And retain the diversified people. I agree. Because we've already said retention is a strength. So
Oh, okay,
we're
that's
already
right.
retaining our
Got it,
our
got it.
regular people.
Got it.
I think we said it was a strength.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did? Okay. Yeah. Then you're right. I just didn't want the guys that are there now to look at it and say, hey, what about us?
I think that's it. Unless you want to address any of your threats.
Yeah. Are there any goals that we can come up with for addressing the threats?
Well, the
I
unfunded,
think
the
we
unfunded
can.
mandates
How
would be
about
save more money, but.
continue to, it's what you're doing right now, chief. You are,
Just got to be measurable, right?
yeah. Well, you're already learning everything you can about what's going on. You're already trying to find solutions with other agencies. In other words,
Oh, these three I can put stuff to. There's no,
no, but I'm talking about the threats.
the funding stability, so what would we,
Continue to funding stability outside local state of I guess we wouldn't, but you're already doing it. It's just,
you could cover the threats as one, and then I could probably
Mitigate.
put some objectives together for one, like you said.
okay.
Continue to monitor all threats that
Yeah.
that financially
That
or,
could financially devastate.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's see what I can do. You're right on the right track.
Perfect. You sure like those ands.
I told you I do.
Your hands are like gums.
Continue to monitor and all threats that could potentially.
This is my thought, I'm thinking and. So we could put overwhelm, if you don't like devastate, overcome, confound, shock, distress, upset, shatter.
What
If
do
you
you-
like
oh.
devastate, we're good.
Continue to monitor all,
I know, I'm gonna get rid of them. This is what I do.
I would just put
Trust
any,
me,
not
this is what I
all,
do on
because
my
you won't even
emails, too.
know.
I have to go back and go, okay.
Put any, don't put all, because there's no way you're gonna know all threads.
I wouldn't put any or all, just threats.
Yeah, that's right. Continue to monitor threats
That could
that could
financially
financially
devastate the well-being.
impact.
That's a good word.
Oh, not
The impact.
It's the wireless keyboard. It's too big. You're used to that small one.
I know, right?
Perfect.
Okay. How's that?
I think that's enough.
I like it.
But I can give you some objectives, how we're gonna do that, by this and that. I'll have to think of them, but
Okay.
it's a whole nother day.
We come
See,
a
we
long
got
way.
8, actually, we got 1, 4, 6, 8,
Yeah?
12 into 4 goals,
Awesome.
right?
See what we can achieve.
Good job, everybody.
You good with it? Okay. I'm gonna read them to you one more time, make sure. Find opportunities to build and retain a more diversified racial and gender, volunteer, and full-time workforce. Identify the process to preserve institutional knowledge and also define a succession plan. Seek out opportunities to expand services through JPA, joint powers agreements, grants, and interagency relations. Continue to monitor threats that could financially impact the well-being of the fire district. Yeah?
Okay, the only thing is, just bear with me.
Yeah.
Can you switch this around?
Yeah.
Because you actually put the parentheses with the acronym is
Oh, it's
after
you're
that,
right,
yeah.
you're right. The acronym is supposed to be in parentheses. You are absolutely right.
It's just easier to read.
Well, that's what it's
Yeah.
supposed to be.
Do we need the also in 2,
Where?
in number 2?
No,
No.
Okay.
and just, does it make sense to say to monitor and address in number 4? Not just monitor, we do want to address them if they're there.
Yeah,
There you go.
very good. Well, guys, the board's getting better at this.
It's spelled wrong though, right?
What?
Address?
No, that's right.
Address is right.
It's pronounced 2 different ways.
All right. Let me
Thank you.
save this before we lose it. and I have
Thank
to-
you very much.
4 goals enough?
Yes.
They're kind of heavy in terms of their,
I got 3 things for each one, so, I mean,
Did you
we've
want
only
another?
had 4 or 5 in the past.
well, you really technically have about 6 because he doubled up some.
Well, yeah, they're,
He's got a whole year, we want to make sure he has some work to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I'm sure you do.
I know we talked a lot, so I'm very grateful for everybody's patience, especially Larry in the background there. But I got to tell you that it is refreshing after one of my first meetings with the fire board many, many years ago, where the board talked for about 55 minutes about the hole in the oil pan and the oil slipping out of the oil pan. And when I brought up that if there was a policy and procedure for procurement, which was actually what we needed to be talking about, everybody said that they didn't want to talk so much about that. So it's just so refreshing for me that we actually get to the point of building a budget with some work and effort into it. And so the board knows that that was one of the only times in my life where I actually cussed and sweared, when I said, who gives about oil falling on the ground? But thank you, everyone.
No problem. I think we just need to adjourn, but I would like to make one note before you do that. It says to the regular board meeting, but we have a meeting on June 1st.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we need to make that note, is that the meeting will be adjourned till the next special board budget study session on June 1st.
2 PM, right?
2 PM here.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Oh. Brain fried.
Friday night. Get the word out, a bunch of millennials.
I know I'm working